Hi, I'm JimmyNavio. Hi, everybody. How's it going? It's like a tradition now, basically, that I start the podcast muted. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to another episode of Hit the Bucket. I am very excited about today's show. We have a very special guest with us. He hangs around on the Twitch. Him and his better half, Cabotage, have you can spot them occasionally on Gator Pete's channel, and they also do their own thing on stream. And he's going to talk to us today, and I'm excited because he is Portuguese. And for those of you who've been around, you know that I speak Portuguese. So I'm going to be really tempted to just like keep talking to him in Portuguese, but I know that's not going to be any fun for anyone else. So I will bite my tongue. But he's also a 3D designer. He's a 3D modeler and designer. He works with Cabotage. And I got some dirt. I dug deep. I found some details. I am very much excited to have a conversation with him. And as always, my co-host, Mr. James28, is here with me. Recently found out he's probably going to be joining me at TwitchCon, so I'll get to meet him. I've never met James28 in person, and I'm curious to see if he's actually as tall as he says he is. We're gonna have a tall off because we're both fairly tall. So let's get him on. I'm gonna bring him on now. Thank you guys for being here. For those who might be here for the first time, this is a weekly podcast. We do it every Wednesday night, or we try to. Last week we failed miserably. I blame Meshyf. We'll talk about that later. But every Wednesday night we do a podcast. We try and have some exciting guests. So please give me a follow, come back, check it out. Also, one more plug before I bring them on. Don't forget about Jumbotron Jamez. If you guys have a special message, an advertisement, a silly quip, whatever it might be, if you want James to read it during the podcast, which these podcasts will be syndicated on YouTube, iTunes, and what's the other one? Google Play. It will be immortalized forever, whatever your message may be. Use your ducats and buy yourself a Jumbotron Jamez and have him read your message live on the podcast. So without further ado, let's bring on our guests, Mr. James28 and Mr. Launcherq. Hello, guys. Make sure you unmute yourselves.
Well, hello then.
Oh.
Hello there.
So many voices of people that I like. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. I'm here with you guys, so what else could I ask for?
True.
Doing good. Final confirmation on my flight to TwitchCon.
How long did you say that flight was? 11 hours?
It's 11 hours.
My goodness. Hopefully it's worth it. It'll be worth it just to meet me, right?
Oh, of course.
So how tall are you? You said you're 6 what?
6'1".
Okay. So
as of my last physical.
I should be an inch taller than you then when we meet. I'm going to be very disappointed. We show up and you're taller than me, because that means I've shrunk.
Oh. Or I've got taller.
I'm getting to that age where I might start shrinking. Where's TwitchCon? It's in San Jose, which I live a few hours from there, and I have a friend that lives there. So that's really the only reason I'm going, is because I don't have to pay for a hotel and I can drive there. So I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, Launcherq, I met him through I think through Gator Pete's stream.
Yep.
And I started kind of lurking on him a bit, checking out what he does. I caught a stream or two of his, and he's actually a very proficient 3D creator. And he's a freelancer. He actually does that for a living. That is his job.
Yeah.
So why don't you just give us a little background on how that happened? Because I've tried like 3 or 4 times to I'll install Blender. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna figure this shit out, and then I give up like a day later. So break it down for us. How'd you get into it?
Right, it's not easy. And what it's not easy, it's not to learn Blender. It's to get the mindset to do so. And I say Blender as you can say anything else.
Yeah, Maya.
Yeah, for example, any 3D program or any program at all, like the problem was to bring yourself to, yeah, I want to learn it. And once I did, like, it was pretty much like I watched tutorials on YouTube. Cabo gifted me a couple of tutorials as well on Udemy and stuff like that, and I just got more efficient with every tutorial until I learned. But I had to, make a few sacrifices. So yeah, but I got to a point where I'm comfortably comfortable using the program, and I don't claim to be a professional because I'm always learning, but I developed my skill enough to be able to make money and live out of it, me and Capo. So yeah,
that's awesome, man. You brought up a couple things. One, you said courses on Udemy. Did you find some actual, like, valuable, worthwhile courses on Udemy? Because it's been very hit and miss for me. I've paid for courses on Udemy, and I'm like, this was a waste of $50. so like,
right.
What was your experience with Udemy?
Right. So when I started that course, that it basically teaches you the overlay and everything and how it works and how it's supposed to work. That's a brilliant course. Let me tell you right now, I learned a lot, that little details that I didn't know how to do before that, So I was already creating mesh, I was already creating objects and 3D items, but only when I looked, when I saw that tutorial, that a lot of my doubts and, so you can do it this way, because Blender has that thing where you can do the same thing like 3 or 4 ways differently, and at the end of the day the end result might be the same, but the method and the time that you spend doing it's what varies. So that Udemy course was definitely a very, very useful for me, because
just kind of made a lot of stuff click into place for you.
Exactly. It connected. Look, I was watching it and, okay, I already know how to do this, I already know how to do that, but then the little details, like if you press this key with that key, it does this automatically, so you don't have to worry about it. It's like, what? So yeah.
Okay.
So that helped a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I know I messed around with Blender for a time, and I was like, if I want to actually get better at this, I should watch a tutorial. So I just Google Blender tutorial in a YouTube. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty straightforward stuff. And he's like, and then to do half the work, you can actually apply a mirror modifier. And I was like, what now? And then the video goes on, and it's like, and now using a mirror modifier, everything you do on this side, it'll copy it for you to the other side. It makes things so much simpler. And I was like, that's a thing that exists. So many times I'd have like uneven bits because I'm trying to like do both sides of a thing, and I didn't know modifiers existed.
I know the feeling, because I myself find myself like at start, how do I do this? How do I copy? How do I make like a face, for example, being completely symmetrical? And then you start looking into these things, and mirror modifiers and array modifiers that repeat. For example, if you're doing a railing that you need to repeat the poles over and over again, you don't need to like UV and wrap them individually. You can just do one, and then it applies the same UV throughout the entire pole. All the poles or all the items that you're making, they will all array and copy the same characteristics of the first one. So there's a lot of shortcuts, a lot of things that you need to pay attention, and that's why Udemy, to me, helped me a lot.
All right, cool. Well, you might have to send me some links. You might have to drop me some info in the Discord server, because it's something that I'm the type of guy, I'm very hands-on. I like to figure everything out myself. Whether it's programming this or, doing this in that program or whatever. Like I spend time in Audacity. I love open source stuff too. So I'm like, Blender is so cool because it's open source. It's really powerful, and I want to learn it so bad. I've learned Audacity and GIMP and all these other things, and like I feel like Blender is that final hurdle that I need to overcome. So I definitely need to pick your brain and get some links from you later.
Definitely.
But
yeah, like I feel like Blender, it's such a, it's too powerful. Like you don't know where to begin.
There's so much.
Because it's 3D modeling. You can video edit, special effects. You can make a full game just in Blender.
Yeah.
Like the stuff I've seen people do, it's incredible.
Well, yeah, some people
That's
use
true.
it as a full-blown video editor too. Like, I mean, it's kind of
It's very
crazy.
complete.
It's overwhelming for me. I'm like, where? Okay, file open.
It's
what?
where that open source power comes in, because you can really. I'm only looking to do like 3D modeling, so I'll like tweak it like perfectly just so I can do the things I want it to do.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll come back to that in a minute, but I have so many. I've got all the dirt, Launcher. I hope you're ready.
Oh.
I hope you're ready because I went deep.
All right.
So, well, one more thing on Blender. So, from what I understand, you just barely started doing all of this in 2016.
Yes.
Just like a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, and it was quite scary, to be honest. I don't know if you guys are aware or not, but I used to work on a construction site.
Actually, we're gonna switch to media view right now because I got a picture.
Oh.
Oh, hold on.
Ooh, I like where this is
Picture,
going.
question mark.
Yeah, we got a sexy shot here. That's you.
What?
Look at that guy. Yeah, buddy. See, I got my sources.
Cabo.
Who's that handsome construction worker?
It's always the ones you trust the most.
I know, right? Like, what the hell?
So anyway, you used to work in construction.
Definitely was a really harsh time. It was really hard to, to first of all to learn it. It was very, very tiring. Not to mention it takes a lot from you.
Oh yeah, physical labor is.
Yeah, waking up at 6 a.m. and getting home at 7:30 p.m. Like literally, it was very tiring. And then, so my site ended, and when they end, you go home for like a month more or less.
Yeah.
So in that time span, in January of 2016, I decided, okay, so I've tried Blender a couple of years ago, but it didn't go anywhere. I was too lazy, honestly, to look further into it. So I just, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do something for myself. I don't want to continue working on a construction site, so I'm just gonna try and, make something. And so that's when me and Cabo, we sat down, we talked a lot, and I started to learn Blender. What if we can learn some 3D, upload some models, try and sell them? And the hardest part was to make that decision and to tell my father, which I was living with at the time, because it's quite hard to, okay, so after a month he calls me and say, hey, I have a job for you. We can start tomorrow.
Oh, like so your father did the construction stuff with you.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I'm going to try this whole Blender thing.
Exactly.
That probably didn't go over too well at first.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Like,
Family business launcher.
it's complicated,
Right.
and I understand
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Like, I'm telling my father that all of a sudden I'm stopping working, and it's like, how are you going to pay your things? How are you going to do this? And I'm telling him, I'm going to take a leap. If it works, I can go back to Portugal. I have family here. I can go back to Portugal. I can start, living without having to go to a construction site.
Where were you at the time when you were doing construction?
France.
So
I was living in France.
You were living in France with your father doing construction.
Mhm.
But most of your family was back in Portugal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I tell my father this, he's like, no, you're crazy. Like, what you gonna do, right? Like, and I could understand him, and I can sympathize with him not fully embracing the fact that I was pursuing this thing. But, with time and after my first payment, which is not really a payment, but when I showed him that, look, I can actually make money with this, he was like very supportive, and he actually he never put any stops to anything that I wanted to do. So that's when I started to learn Blender in January 2016, and dragged out until I'm still learning it today. So
now that was something you've said that twice now, and I want to point that out. The fact that you say I'm still learning, that's, if I were going to hire someone, I would hire you. I would never hire the guy that's like, yeah, I got this shit all figured out. Like the person who always like is constantly like, no, I can get better. There's more to do. I can learn. Like that. That's inspiring to me because like obviously you're good at what you do. You do it full time. I've seen some of your work. We'll probably show some of your work. But like the fact that you're like, no, I'm terrible. I still have so much to learn. Like that is a very like admirable and humble trait to have. Like that you're still striving to be better. Like that's the type of person you look for to hire, because it's like he actually like gives a shit.
I appreciate it. Yeah, like I can never say that I fully learned something. You're always, everything you do, it's always a learning process. There's always a learning curve. You get better at what you do, but you never fully I mastered this, I'm moving on. Well, you can move on, but it doesn't mean that you fully mastered it. There's always something to learn. There's always space to improve. Every time I look at a past work, sometimes me and Cabo, we sit down, we talk, and we go look behind the stuff that we did before, and just like, man, this item probably wasn't that great. I could have improved it, etc., etc. And that's what it is. That's what Blender comes down to, and well, Blender and everything else. Like everything you do, if you always leave space to improve, you can always get better at it. I guess that's my opinion, at least.
Mm-hmm. And something I noticed you said was, once I showed my father that the money, that's when he changed my mind. Because it's like, that's the same thing when I was trying to describe like what I do with Twitch and YouTube to my parents and my grandparents, my grandmother's boyfriend. Because you tell them about this, like, oh, I do this thing where I'm like producing like my own content, I'm creating my own stuff, but then they're like, but how does that sustain you? And then you start talking about the money and how like the money works, and then once you say those words, like, I can make money doing this, that's when it like clicks in their head, like, so there's money in this, huh? Like I remember telling my grandmother's boyfriend, like, yeah, when I make YouTube videos, I get ad revenue for them for every person that watches. And he was like, oh, ad revenue, huh? Like, how does that work? Like, he wasn't interested in the creation part. He was interested in the money part. I feel like that's a lot of like the same like reaction a lot of older folks have about it. Like, where does the money come from?
Yeah, and
money
in
talks,
my father's case, yeah, that too. But in my father's case, was not as much as how much you're making and is this good was honestly, can you sustain yourself? He was legitimately worried that I was digging a grave for myself right then and there. Like, I have a work I'm refusing to go to do this instead. Like, can you make money out of it? Can you survive out of it? And that's what I showed him, what I proved to him when I showed him, was like, yes, I can. So he was actually worried that I was shooting myself in the foot. I could have, it could have happened. And I told him that, like, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but if it doesn't, I can always go back to construction work until I find something else that I can do. So, it's always hard to show to them that you actually are making money out of it. And once they do see it, and once they do realize that, that's the thing, that's when they start to approach you differently about things. So yeah,
I'm sure having the fallback does help though. Like being able to fallback, meaning like, oh, if this doesn't work out, I can go back and do that other thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Having a little bit of like kind of a safety net fallback, like, I'm just gonna go for it. If it doesn't work, I can do the construction thing, but this is what I'm really passionate about.
Of course, yeah. And in my case, like, my father and my uncle, they're both there, and my father has a life there. He has 2 kids already. He's not married, but he's with someone, and it's not an issue for him to get me a job there. Like I could easily do that back then. So nowadays, like it's easier for me because, you know, I have it all laid down and set up and everything is working perfectly, perfect for me and for Cabo. We're both doing the same thing. But at the end of the day, like because I also have a fallback, I was not as worried as, you know, if I do this, there's no going back. But there's always a lot of emotion involved, you know, like coming back to Portugal, I had to leave my 2-year-old brother there that I got really attached to, of course. I had to, and then you start thinking otherwise. So when you come back to Portugal, I had my grandmother, I had my grandfather, both here with my mom as well. And, you know, I was missing years with them. Like every year that passed that I was in France, I was only coming here to Christmas. So I was losing time with them. Yeah. So, you know, so that feeling of missing time with the people you actually love, it was always constant there. And once I got here, I started feeling the same way, but about them. So I started missing my father and my 2 brothers, you know. So, you know, it's always a sacrifice. There's always something that you need to sacrifice in order to be able to do something in life, I guess. But at the end of the day, like I'm what I want to be now. So that's something.
No, dude, that's insane. Like that, your whole quest to, like, you know, moving to France, doing all the construction, then like making that decision to like do Blender and move back to Portugal, like those decisions are not easy decisions to make. And
nope.
I commend you for having the cojones, os huevos, to make a decision like that. Parabéns.
Obrigado.
All right, so a couple things here. Most of you probably don't know this, but I know this. For a while, you were a professional musician.
How do you know that?
Because I talked to Cabotage for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, I used to play every weekend. You know, I was from my 18 to my.
Oh yeah, there's a guitar in the background.
Something. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's, you know, sometimes I pick it up and I just play something, but not very often, to be honest. Not as often as I would like to.
Maybe play something tonight.
Maybe.
Anyway, you were saying 18, 19?
Yeah, I started at 18, and crazy story, actually. I mean, every story I have is crazy. I couldn't do more than the basic chords, and I couldn't do the F or the G, or, you know, there was a few ones that I couldn't do. And this crazy guy that he's like family to me. He's like a father, but not really. He worked with my father. Back then we were all in Portugal, and so they were talking together, and he's like, hey, I need someone to play guitar with me, because he was a musician, you know, he was a professional musician. Yeah. And my father went to do some sort of a thing at their home. They were working together then, so they talked, and my father said, oh, my son plays guitar. I was like, and like if I was there, I was like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I know a few chords.
Your parents always think you're better than you actually right? are at everything, right?
Exactly. So it's like, no, I don't actually. But okay. So he came home with my father to see, and so he asked me, so do you know how to do a few chords? And I was like, yeah, I guess. So he picked me up. That guy, he teach me everything I know about music.
Nice.
Like he's a genius. Like one of the smartest people I know, to be honest. Like he can identify if there's something wrong with you. He can tell it. He can look at, if he hears a car honking, he can tell you which tone that car is honking at. Like
perfect pitch.
Perfect pitch. Oh. It's insane.
I'm so jealous of people with perfect pitch, dude.
I know, right? So like I'm playing a chord, and you're not pressing the third the third string, right? You need to do it a little. It's like, whoa, okay, that's crazy. So yeah, I learned a lot with him from 18. So we started to play, we started to do things together, and then we added a full we had a drummer, a bass guitar, and it was the five of us. He's a pianist or a key player, a keyboard player, and that's where we pretty much played every single weekend, and sometimes weekdays.
And then you tripped over a cable.
Cabo.
It's like just when you think you didn't know anymore.
And you tripped over a cable and knocked over an amp, right?
Okay, so I have this very expensive amp that at the time cost me around €1,000, and it's a Roland Jazz Chorus, and that was my baby. Like, you have no idea how much I love that amp. And usually it's the case that you save the amp. I usually use it to put the amp on top.
Yeah.
So I'm crazy on stage, like, I'm jumping and going here and there, just wired with a cable. And all of a sudden, I don't know what I did. I got messed up in the cable. My guitar got disconnected, but I was all tangled up with the wire, right? So the guitar gets disconnected, and I start looking at the guitar. Why is this not making any sounds? Because I couldn't realize it at the time. I was like, all right. And then I looked down, and as I'm looking down, I was so tangled that I lose balance, and my hand, I tried to support myself on the amp. Didn't work out because I was heavier than the amp, and it actually fell down. So I had to, spend some money trying to fix it, and it's fixed. So it got fixed, but that was definitely a little bit embarrassing in front of all the 100 people watching this. Okay, that just happened, and everyone just starts laughing.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
But you never did that again.
No, never tripped. I always made sure my cable was plugged, behind the strap. That's what you should have done. But, it's just, it's a learning experience. Never happened again. So,
I had a teacher that he was known for saying, "You'll never forget your traumatic experiences. So when I really need you to remember something, I'm just going to yell."
Nice.
That's clever.
I mean, there's probably some truth to that. I definitely remember most of my traumatic experiences for sure. Speaking of traumatic experiences, we're just gonna keep this Cabo train going. She said you cry during movies like a lot.
Oh my God.
She said it's almost a problem.
Right. So I'm emotional, right? And I tend to leave things very deeply. I get very attached to storylines and whatnot. And when there's a scene where, I don't know, it's supposed to be touchy, it really touches me.
No, I'm the same way, man.
Yeah, right? I mean,
that's why I brought it up, because I can definitely relate.
Yeah.
A couple more. One more. I thought this was crazy interesting, and I want footage of this. She said that for a moment there, you were actually a reporter on French news.
I showed up on national French television, yeah.
As a reporter?
But no. Because I worked on construction site, and they were doing a report, an interview about safety measures and stuff like that. And they actually recorded me working not in the best conditions of safety, because I shouldn't be doing what I was doing in the way that I was doing, because I needed to be, tangled up with some sort of crazy harness thing. And it's like, I'm just going to the edge just to pass a few, I don't know the English term, but just some wood planks, some big long wood planks. So it's gonna be fine. So yeah, they were recording me right then and there. So
look at this man, the dangerous conditions he is in. It's like they have a fisheye lens, so it looks like a huge drop.
It was actually the 5th floor, so
So it
Fifth,
was a huge
I don't
drop.
remember. I don't remember if it was the 5th or the 3rd. It might be one or the other. So either way, it wouldn't be very healthy for me.
Your boss had a talk with you later about why the fuck you going on TV looking like a jackass?
Actually, they just laugh about it.
Oh.
Honestly, yeah, they
we're
just
not
laughed
gonna
about it.
do that.
It's
like,
fine.
Safety regulations. This is France. No one gives a shit.
Pretty much.
Nice.
It's like the fine. It's gonna be more expensive to buy the harness.
Yeah. No, the thing is, they actually do have the harness, but okay, I don't remember if it was the 5th floor or not. I think it was the 3rd. Now that I think about it, but if you think about it, you're on the 3rd floor, and you need one or two planks that are just outside the floor. There's like this safety, a platform that they put on temporarily, and you need those 2 planks. But to get those 2 planks, you need to go downstairs, 3 floors or 5 floors or whatever where you are. You go down, then you have to put on the harness, which takes about 15 minutes. it's a very complicated thing. All right. So then you have to go all the way back up, grab the things, pass the 2 wood planks, go back down, take off the harness because somebody else might need it, and there's only like 2 or 3, and then go back up. So that's like 1 hour or more to just pass 2 planks. So it's like, never mind.
We ain't got time for that. Safety,
Yeah.
schmafety.
Yeah, but I got punished for that.
Like the construction job takes too long.
Yeah, exactly, right? But I got actually punished for that because a couple of months later, I twisted my ankle, and until this day, I do sometimes suffer from it because I always feel my ankle, and it always hurts. So because I was doing something of that kind, I was not looking where I was walking, and I twisted my ankle. So if you have to do safety things, like all the safety things, because you might twist your ankle one day, like I did.
Wick says, walk it off. All right, James, do you have any questions before I give him some of these quick fire daddies?
No, not at all. Unless, let's see, what was on my mind earlier? Oh, right. So you do this commission-based work, and I remember I was in your stream the other time, but for other people that may not know this, where does most of your commissions come from?
All right, so it's not necessarily commission-based. Think of it this way. I work for an online platform. I don't work for them. I work there. And it's a platform that it's 100% built and made by users, right? So
like Fiverr or something like that?
No, like a 3D world, like a 3D platform. Imagine Sims, okay? The Sims, the game where you can build your own house and stuff like that.
Like Second Life or something?
That's exactly where I work, yeah.
Okay.
Where we have our store. So, and we saw potential there. All right, so you can build your own items, set them for sale, and if they're good, people will buy them. So that's what we did. Me and Cabo, we opened our store. We started to make things. We started to participate in events, which work pretty much like fairs. Like it's a fair, and there's booths and stuff, and you just look at this is Crescendo's store, and they're doing these items exclusively. That's a hard word for me to say. It's just for that event, and it's a couch, or it's we do very weird stuff. We do upcycled, we do recycled, everything. So we developed, we made our brand, we made our store, and we started to get invited to big events within the platform. And so basically now our deadlines and timelines are basically because those events have timelines and deadlines. So the event opens from day X to day Y, and that's when we have to have the item ready for. So imagine we're doing a desk or a bed or a chair. We make those items, we set them for sale at that event. The event opens. It's, they have media and Facebooks and all that stuff. They send out grid-wide messages. Everyone goes to that event, and people buy our stuff. So it's not as much as a commission as we do whatever we want, basically. Within, there's events that have themes. Sometimes there's events that have, just broader themes. There's things more like focused on something. It really depends on the type of events that we're doing. So yeah, that's where we developed our thing and where we are actually being successful at. And hopefully, though, we do expand to other online platforms we've been looking at. There's a few interesting things that I can actually expand my 3D knowledge to as well, in terms of better conditions for us to work in, for us to produce what we do. So that's what we are looking and aiming towards doing. So yeah.
That's crazy, man. Like you've been able to build a whole career in an ecosystem just around that. But do you do the occasional like offhand like commission if someone's like, "Hey, I'm interested in something like this," or because I might have to ask you to make a 3D bucket. I might need.
That's fine.
We
can do that.
Bucket.
We can do that pretty easy. Yeah, sometimes we do get requests, and
so here's real quick. This is one that Gator Pete just sent me. This is one of the ones I saw you working on this, and I thought this was pretty cool. Do you want to explain what? I don't know why it won't let me zoom in. Was this an item that was commissioned by somebody, or was this one you were building for that event, one of those events, or? That
is actually a free gift in our store. So if you have an account in Second Life, because we rebuilt the entire store, just don't get me started on the store. It was
okay.
It was honestly not a nightmare in a bad way. It took a lot of work to do. You know, it was very time consuming to think, okay, what's the layout we need to have? Imagine, again, for people that are watching, probably more familiarized with the Sims, right? So imagine walking yourself through a Sims store that you have to have the new items, the display things. You have to have all the information you need to people. So we did that item to kind of like bring people to our store, to see the new overlay, a couple of new items that we have done. So that one was exactly that. We Cabo was like, oh, we should do this sign. So she sends me a reference picture that more or less vaguely looks like that, and then from there I'm like, okay, that's kind of easy. So I did the entire base structure, everything, traced out the neons and after the font, and it's a free gift. So yeah.
That's really cool. All right. Well, we have our usual quick fire questions that we like to ask a lot of our guests. I basically have a list of questions, and I pick out the ones I think are most interesting, just to see if we can get to know you a little better.
All right.
What is your favorite cuss word? And I'm going to allow English or Portuguese.
Ooh.
That's going to have to be Portuguese, and it's going to have to be for this.
Do you want to tell the people what that means?
That's pretty much fuck you, but not you directly. It's like when you hurt yourself and you say fuck. In Portuguese, we say you, fuck you, but it's not really meant to be at that person. I know it's weird, but you know, Portuguese is weird. Also, chupa uma pizza is something we say very regularly, but it's just between friends, and it's just,
in Portuguese, I have two. One is I don't know if this is Brazilian slang or if it means the same thing in Portuguese. Does cu mean the same thing in? So vai tomar na cu is cu is like asshole, but it's like super duper offensive.
Yeah.
So if I tomar no cu is basically go take it in the ass, but it's like probably one of the worst things you can say to someone. And
pretty much, yeah.
And cueca encheada, I for whatever reason I think that's like saying like full underwear.
Yeah, that's a Brazilian slang though.
Yeah.
We don't use it in Portugal, but yeah.
Yeah. So cueca encheada, like it's good stuff. But But that I like yours though. What about English? If you had one in English, besides fuck, because everyone says fuck.
I know, right? So I don't usually. I don't know. Cabo could probably vouch for that one, because I don't consciously think I say a cuss word in English. When I'm mad or upset, I do say like a few weird words like bollocks or bugger, but those are not cuss words. Those are just like, so I do say those quite often, but besides the regular fuck this or fuck that, but other than that, I think I just cuss in Portuguese. When I'm upset, it's like Portuguese all the way.
Yeah.
Like really bad calling your mother names in Portuguese is just like, that's how it goes. That's how my Call of Duty background brought me to, so I just...
Sua mãe, bexiga safada.
Exactly. So that's where my brain immediately switches from English to Portuguese, and I just rage at them in Portuguese. So yeah, that's in English not so much, because I usually tend to be very calm when I have to speak English. Yeah.
You don't seem like a very angry person. So
yeah, usually I'm quite calm and collective, I'd like to think. But I do lose my temper sometimes, mind you, especially when I have someone...
You mean you're human?
Pretty much. When you have someone asking for, and this James asked me before, or you also, Jimmy, as well, about commissions and stuff like that, and then people ask you, so do you want to do this thing for me, and blah blah blah, I want to show you this. So they teleport me, they show me their entire idea, and then I say, okay, that's going to be around $40, because it's going to take me about a full day to make that asset in 3D. And they're like, $40? What? I have someone that does it for $5. And why are you talking to me then? Go talk to them. Pretty much.
Vai
right?
tomar no cu.
But I have to be super calm and say like, oh, I'm sorry then, like, yeah, I have to lose an entire day, because I have to be polite regardless. I have to always maintain when I'm talking, especially a possible customer that can possibly say, oh, this guy said this to me, was super rude, I cannot afford that. So I have to always be...
Gotta be professional.
Yeah, but still, it does make me want to say those bad words at them.
Yeah, especially when, as you said, you don't really do commission work. Like, it's going to cost you a lot, because for one, that's not something you normally do. So you kind of want to discourage it. Like, I'm going to highball them because I kind of don't want to do it. But if they're willing to pay a lot, then I might as well.
100% real. I sometimes actually overprice because I don't want to do it. Like, this guy asked us to do an entire store, like I did for us, and I just like, I cannot.
$5,000.
Yeah, it was insane. I just, look, if you want to pay this amount, it's going to be, we can do it, but otherwise it's just not worth my time.
Right.
It's going to take me almost a week to do that. I'm going to, probably miss out on a few events. You have to cover for those events, basically. So, yeah, I understand. No, thank you. It's fine. We're still friends. We still talk. So, but yeah, that happens. Sometimes I have to overprice things so that I don't have to do certain things. So,
It's just smart business.
Right. All right, let's move on. I have another question for you. What sound or noise, this can be good or bad, is there a sound or noise that triggers you or like takes you back, like just triggers a memory or a place in time, or just like every time you hear that noise, it just like transports you?
Definitely, I don't like very high pitched sounds like forks in plates and stuff like that. That's no, big no. Other than that, good sounds. You're talking to a guy that used to play a lot of music, so of course, every guitar, just one string of the guitar, if I play the first one, I can vocally tell you all the other ones because they're all in my memory. So that's pretty much the sounds that I will be attracted to, or that will bring me memories. The sound of a guitar, a tuner, the little device that does the first tune of the first string of the
440
guitar.
hertz or whatever.
Exactly. So all of those will definitely bring me those memories, and good ones. In that case, not the forks and knives thing. So.
All right. If heaven existed,
Mhm.
what would you like to hear God say when you showed up at the pearly gates?
So you spent your entire life not believing in me, and here I am.
You want God to call you out?
Yeah.
He says, "What now, bitch?"
It's like the gates. You kind of had to believe in me.
I mean, the fact that you didn't believe in him and still made it to heaven, you must have been a decent person, right? So
There you go. There you go. So I would probably not meet him if he was real.
He said, "Shupa mi pizza."
He would definitely call me out like, so you didn't believe me, huh? Like,
That's
yeah, dude,
awesome.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
You want God to call you out? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What are you not very good at?
Dancing. I can't dance at
Cabo,
all.
I needed to chime in here. Can the man dance? Is he he's secretly a good dancer, right? When he's alone?
Zero, man. Zero whatsoever.
No. Just 2 letters. N-O.
I get very clumsy. I
You're a
I can get
musician.
in a
You should at
rhythm.
least have rhythm. Can't you at
Exactly,
least lean
exactly.
on the rhythm? Like,
Right. So I can do that, but then you start doing some weird stuff with your arms. It's like, dude, either I lean or I do stuff with my arms. Like both of them at the same time, it's gonna take some practice. So
Just
I
like
never
in
practiced. I never
Well,
did anything like that. So yeah,
Nice.
I'm horrible at dancing.
I bet James
like
is
you
a good
just,
dancer.
Just move your arms like this is good enough. I'm dancing.
Pretty much. Just blink once in a while and wave your hand.
Just move on rhythm. It doesn't matter what the movements are, as long as they're on rhythm, right? James is a professional merengue dancer. For those who didn't know, is that racist? Am I allowed to say that? Because he's Mexican. So last question: room, desk, and car. Which one do you clean first?
None of them.
Cabo, is he a slob?
Okay, I let a pile of stuff in my desk. Not now because I cleaned up for the podcast for no reason whatsoever. But if I had to pick, it would be my desk because I have to work at it. And of course, I clean my own stuff.
Right.
But I'm just very lazy to do so. It's conservative.
Conservative.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Nice.
Like clean enough for me.
Yeah, I know where everything is. Like, what? There's 2 headphones that I don't actually use. Just one. Let's keep one on the desk for no apparently reason. It's just gonna stay there.
That is political of you, Cabby. Conservative. He's not good, but he's not terrible. He's just kind of, good.
It's in his own space.
Cabo, also, I noticed earlier, I'm going to call her out for a previous comment. She said your driving is terrifying. Are you...
She meant on Battlefield. I'd like to point that out.
No, we actually have a clip of that. I have a few clips we're going to watch of you. Usually I watch like the top clip, but we're going to watch a few of yours because they're all really short. Your top 3 or 4 clips are actually all really good. So, in fact, that's a good segue. Let's switch over. Speaking of bad driving, this first clip, we'll watch it first now. It'll be perfect. He apparently has been accused of bad driving multiple times. So before he even got accused in this clip, he made an excuse, and it's awesome. So we're gonna watch that one first. It's the clip is called "Amazing Driver."
Look, there's a bike here. It's already in a bad spot. Okay, so mind that.
Oh, why have you like?
Listen, it was
bad.
upside down.
Absolute bullshit. Look, it's in a bad position. This is why I can't drive. There's a tank that's nearly dead in the sea.
You'll.
It was already in a bad spot, right? It's not your fault.
Listen. I grabbed that bike. It wasn't a bad spot, right? I drove all the way down that hill. I turned around and I killed that guy. That's awesome, right?
You done good, kid. I mean, it was kind of in a bad spot. I see what you're saying.
Right?
All right.
The end goal was the same, but the execution, very, very interesting.
True story.
Definitely.
All right, we're gonna click through the rest of these. This one's called Ghost. I saw this one. I thought it was pretty funny. It made me giggle. So he's doing his 3D design. Watch down in the corner.
So we do it like
Sitting in the dark.
this. And now we disguise this. You guys saw that? All right.
That's creepy.
That's a really odd one. It never did that anymore.
Ever?
Yeah, ever. It never did that at all.
It's like the one and only time when you're
That was
streaming.
the
It's
one
just
and
like,
only.
bloop.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it
Tav,
looks like a fire.
real quick, Tav, I'm sorry that you got booted for dropping that link. I made you a regular, so if you had a link you wanted to post, you can do so now. Sorry about that. Moving on to the next one. This one is called Falling. I thought this was hilarious, and this one will need some explanation because this is actually you're doing 3D design, and I think you forgot to include a part of your 3D object, and it's pretty funny. I love that the music is playing Falling
ready for
in the
this?
background.
Sound of drums.
I know.
This is
I want to
cool.
restart it. In the background, the music says, I'm falling. So keep that in mind in context. I know it's kind of quiet, but.
Okay, ready for this? Sound of drums. This is cool. This is a cool part.
Nope. So what happened there? What happened, Launcherq? Did you forget
So,
the
yeah.
bottom?
No, like the bottom was actually there, but the problem is when you're doing physics, you have to apply, okay, so I selected, it's two different objects. The side of the box, it's an object, and the bottom is another object. So I added the physics to the side, but I forgot to add the bottom. So actually, when I press, I like, okay, so the physics are done, like everything's cool. All right, so let's just press play. And when I press play, I'm like super anxious to see them falling in the right place, but they just fall through. It's just like because there's no bottom.
You built up the anticipation, and then it just went. Boo.
Sound the drums. Nope, denied.
All right, this last one. This one's gonna cause some controversy, especially with Mr. Gator Pete. I don't know if you know what clip I'm about to play, Launcherq, but you're about to be exposed, sir.
Oh my god.
I don't know
Oh,
if you
no.
guys knew this, but Launcherq is an avid Nickelback fan. Here he is singing along to some Nickelback live on his stream.
You know. I couldn't cut his head, a poor man stealing. What are you doing to me? Why are we listening to Nickelback? I love Nickelback. This cannot be known.
Did you hear that? He admitted
I
it.
love Nickelback. This cannot be known.
It is now known forever on this podcast.
That was a secret, okay?
the rest
That
of
was not supposed to.
Should have deleted that clip, bro. I found it. It's all over now.
It's like, who requested this song?
You
Bam.
just got banned from Gator Pete's stream forever. That word is banned on his stream, by the way.
Yeah. It's just okay. Explaining Nickelback from an outsider point of view. I am Portuguese, okay? I don't know about all this like dissing Nickelback and why they are over this or overplayed or this or that. I don't know. So when they started playing here in the radios and everything, yeah, it's a cool song. It's a cool vibe. The lyrics at the time didn't make sense to me because I was Portuguese. I had no clue of what they were saying. And it was just like a cool guitar thing that I kind of actually learned how to play. So back then, I don't remember now, but I did. So, yeah, this is a cool band. I like them. So that's why it developed into, because I didn't know any of the things. Then I learned that they came into Portugal and that we throw bottles at them and they throw bottles back, and like it was really nasty, and they stop they stopped the concert in the middle, and it's just like a mess. But yeah, that's basically why I kind of liked them, and I know some of their songs, so
It's all good. I'm
thank you, Pete, for forgiving me.
I'm okay with it. Gator Pete, he may think of you differently now, but
Look at this time.
I love Cabotage just throwing you right under the bus. She's like,
I know, right?
She said excuses, so many excuses.
She should be on my side. What the hell's going on here?
So busted.
It's like I came on for an interview, not an interrogation.
God.
Tav said, actually, Nickelback made a death promise to never play again in Portugal, so we'll never see them again here.
That is true, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that had to do with that whole incident where they got thrown off bottle. I don't know the details, but yeah, they throw bottles back and forth and stuff like that, and you just dropped the mic and went away, and they promised to never come back to Portugal again. Based on that audience, they promised to never come back to Portugal. So I know that shows pretty much their a criteria, I guess.
Wow. Well, you know what? They're lost because
Yeah.
because
love my country,
so far with my interactions with the few people I know from Portugal, mostly tonight, you seem like good people. So they're missing out.
I appreciate the fact that I'm giving a nice impression of Portuguese people, so that's good.
So when I come to visit Portugal, you're gonna let me sleep on your couch because I said all those nice things, right?
No couch. I have like 3 bedrooms upstairs.
Just
you can have a full bedroom. There's 3 bedrooms, bathroom. There's everything, so you just have a place to stay. We live 50 kilometers. I don't know miles. I'm sorry. 50 kilometers away from Lisbon. It's more or less of a 30-minute drive. So there's that.
Bishop Girl thinks I deserve the couch for exposing your love for Nickelback.
Now that you mention that.
All right.
People that expose me don't get a whole room to themselves.
So I think here's what I would like to do. We've gotten to know Launcherq quite well. And generally what we'll do is we'll take a break, and when we get back from the break, we will jump into some Sheef's beef. He has assured me it's a good one this week. But I think right now, before we do, I was trying to decide when I wanted to do it. I think now is the time if James is ready.
Oh.
We have a new segment on the show.
I'm always ready.
On my channel, we have a currency that we use on the channel called ducats. And I made a new incentive where you could spend 2,000 ducats to have James 28, my trusty co-host, read you a message live during the podcast. We have received, I think, 4. Gator Pete slid one in at the last second. So we have 4 messages that James is going to read. I'm going to get a little sexy background music going. And it's up to him how he chooses to interpretate and read your message. So, James, if you're ready, we have, make sure you let the people know who submitted the Jumbotron message. And take it away, sir.
All right. You want it? You got it. This one's from Blue Trouble Gamer. Smooth bananas are my favorite. Why? Because I like to peel them halfway off, lick and suck them. This was myself, Hamas28, saying this, by the way. This next one is from Bella Bandit. My beef of the week is that Meshyf is just too handsome and strong. Love you, babe. And next one from Lakill. Hey guys, Hamas here. Loki.io has a new ambassador program where they are giving out 10,000 Loki coins for qualified ambassadors. Want to educate people about their platform? Contact Lakill for more information. These tokens are worth more than 300 USD. And lastly, it's this one. God. All right, this one from Gator Pete. Normally, The duck keeps its penis inside out within a sac in its body. When the time for mating arrives, the penis explodes outwards to a fully erect 20 centimeters, around a quarter of the animal's total body length. The whole process takes just a third of a second and requires a high-speed camera to capture. Twitch.tv/GatorPete.
Yeah, boy.
That had
So
to be.
that's what we have to offer. That is the Jumbotron Jamez segment of the show. 2,000 ducats. You too can have your message or advertisement read during the podcast. So make sure you get those submitted. You can submit them anytime. You don't have to do it during a stream. You just go to the overlay, you go to the ducat link, and you can submit those. It is limited to 255 characters, but if you would like to have a message read by Mr. Sexy Voice himself, James28, make sure you get those Jumbotrons submitted for the next episode. So we're going to take a quick 3 to 5 minute break. When we get back, we're going to dish up some hot, fresh Sheef's beef. So if you guys want to go ahead and just mute yourself, I'm going to put it on our little away screen for a minute, and we'll be back in a few. All right, I am back. I'm going to bring the guys on here in a second, and we are going to dive straight into some beef. Mr. Meshyf, he finally is ready to serve us up some juicy beef. Last week, he had a time conflict, and I didn't feel right doing a podcast without the beef. So we put it off, not just because of him. We were all pretty busy last week, but I wanted to wait. I felt like Launcherq deserved the full experience. He deserved to experience the beef and everything we had to offer. So if you guys want to unmute yourselves, we're going to switch straight over to the media view here, and we're going to get this beef going. Hello.
Well,
Hello there.
For those who don't know, this segment of the show, if you're new here, our good friend Meshyf, if anyone wants to shout out Meshyf in chat, once a week he makes a pre-made video where he gives us some beef. He gives us 2 topics that he is not very happy about. He's a grumpy old man. I say old, but he's like almost the same age as me. So he's got things that he's not happy about. He's going to give us 2 topics. We're going to debate which one is the bigger beef. Shout out McQueef. that is not. Oh shit! I forgot. No, Red Marsh, you're right on time. It's beef time, Daddy. We're gonna get into some Sheef's beef right meow. So without further ado, usually what we do is we do it on go. So I'll say 1, 2, 3, go, and we'll all hit play at the same time. We have not watched this yet. We do it live. So you guys ready?
ready.
Yep.
All right. 1, 2, 3, go.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Sheef's Beef. I'm your host, Meshyf.
That voice
bringing
crack.
you this week's beef. We're down here at JTR HMBR Studio Complex headquarters. Let's get to the ring. Welcome, everyone, to the beef. I'm your host, Meshyf, and we're going to be going over the 2 hot beefs of the week. Let's get to the first one, blogs. Now, blogs used to be your home, your slice, your homepage of the internet that you controlled, that you could post your opinions, your cool project that you're working on, or just anything that you wanted to do with it. Now, they're still there for that. It's just people don't use them. Why would you use that when you've got Twitter, Tumblr, you got Facebook, you got Snapchat, you got Instagram? There's all these social media platforms that facilitate that need to put your stuff out on the internet and watch it do its thing, right? So you have a way to do that. So blogs aren't used for that anymore. What blogs are used for is click farms. Now, click farm is a really interesting title, generally with an awesome thumbnail that grabs your attention. Like this one right here. Look at these fucking bridges. This is going to be awesome. I love cool architecture, and I definitely want to see this
Look at
bridge.
all the ads while
right?
he's trying to do this.
Well, you click it, and what's the first thing that loads? Ads. Ads are the first thing that loads because ads are the actual content. They're just there to service ads and to get you to click. Each click is there to get more ad revenue, and the website's designed around that. That's why there are these terrible fucking slideshows that take forever to load. There's very low effort, low content creation, and there's never any author or date info, so you can identify who the hell put this thing together.
The ads.
The reason why that's important is some of these blogs will disseminate fake news or hurtful or hate speech or things that are just misinformation altogether that could cause real problems. So you have no way of vetting the author's information and seeing if it's a real thing that you need to pay attention to, or if it's something that you need to take it with a grain of salt. Of course, it's the internet, so everything's got to have a grain of salt. Shit, we're salty right now because we're looking at these fucking blog websites with ads.
He turned off ad block when he made this.
I don't know when this trend started, but now they all want to serve you a notification. Allow notifications on the website.
Notification
BuzzFeed
shit
wants to
drives
send
me
you the
crazy.
top 10 reasons why Elsa was the best princess for the Disney Princess show or something. No. Fucking no. You're not getting any notification access. I'm not allowing any notifications. I got enough shit going on. There's enough things screaming for my attention that I do not need a fucking blog to be serving me more of that. And to top it off, when the content is just ads, I'm not fucking interested. So don't even ask. I feel awful for the uninformed that allow all those notifications and I don't know how to get them away. That's why, blogs, you are the first beef of the week. Let's just collectively stop going to that shit. Second beef, login credentials. Now, logins are a necessary evil, and they've been around a long time on the internet. And, you know, it made sense. It really did make sense to have a username and password so you could log in and get just your information and no one else had access to that. Okay, but this is 2018. We have literally hundreds of username and passwords. The average business person that needs a computer for work has 200 logins. And you know what? There's a new one every fucking day. And these things are a pain in the ass to keep up with. Not only do you have to change it once a month, but you have to change it using the credentials and the rules that they set. Okay? There's no standardization. The DoD puts out a guideline, but most websites don't even use that. And sometimes the usernames are weird too. You're stuck using your email address, which is super fucking insecure, or a username. And sometimes the username has to have like a number or a symbol, but you don't know if you're allowed to use this symbol or that symbol. And then the password does the same thing. And to top it off, you're going to have to go through every month and change that shit over. So do you have a chance to memorize it? No. So what do you resort to? The average person would resort to a Word document or a Post-it note full of usernames and passwords, which is horribly unsafe. And even if those don't get stolen or that doesn't happen, when you're centrally hosting a username and password for a website or even a group of websites, what could happen? There could be a data breach. It happens all the time. And then all of a sudden they've got access to all your username and passwords. And what most people do is they will use one username and password for everything. We're all fucking guilty of this.
It's not wrong.
I try really hard
really
not
isn't.
to. But most people do. Okay, so we've resorted to using websites like bugmenot.com for websites that we don't really need a username or password, but they want to do that so they can serve us fucking ads. Thank you, blogs. And then you have the issue with dumb people at work. I know IT fucking hates this. IT departments must hate username and passwords because I have people at work that absolutely refuse to go from one computer to another because their settings aren't there. And when everyone says settings at work, I'm instantly enraged because what they mean is I don't know my goddamn username and passwords, and I don't know the websites that I need to do my work. So I need you, Mr. IT man, to go over here and copy everything over there because I don't know how. And I know this shit drives people fucking crazy because your IT department has better shit to do than help you with your username and passwords.
True.
And something as simple as a goddamn bookmark. That's why. Passwords, login credentials, you are the second beef of the week.
All right, I paused it. Oh, wait, no, he usually does a blurb. Hold on.
Jimmy, James, chat, Launcherq. I want to hear what you guys have to say. We're going to take a quick break while you guys deliberate which you think is the biggest beef of the week. And when we come back, I will let you know if you're right on Sheef's Beef.
All right, I'm at 6:09. I paused it at 6:09.
Exactly the same.
All right, cool. James,
Same.
what do you think?
Whew. The one that bothers me the most, them login credentials, cause here's
More
the
than
thing.
ads? More than blogs with shitty ads all over?
All right, cause see, here's the thing about blogs with shitty ads. One, I have ad block.
True.
You Origin ad block. I have never seen an ad in probably the past 3 years.
They're getting smarter though.
Oh yeah, like I haven't seen a blatant ad. I still know when there's an ad when I'm like, wait a minute, why is this person shilling this product in the comment section like this? I'm like, it's an ad. But when it comes to login credentials, I use Google Chrome and they save your username and passwords right on. And like Meshyf said, I have the same password. I have 3 passwords for everything and usually the same username. So if this laptop that I'm using is ever like compromised, all they have to do is log in and they basically have access to everything. Because unless it has 2FFA, they can just get in. And it's because every single website that makes you have a login, they always have the stupidest password requirements that are different for everything. It's like, I'm only going to use this website like a couple times, like maybe it's for class. So it's like, okay, lowercase letters, some numbers. And it's like, no. You have to have a special character. You got to have combination, uppercase, lowercase, some numbers in there, some other crap. So I'm like, okay, Google Chrome, just save it for me because I won't even remember this. Some of the websites I do use, I don't even like type stuff in anymore. It just autofills and I click, that should be fine. Log in. So that's the bigger one I have a beef with.
All right. What about you, Launcherq? What you think?
It's a tough one. I think because of the same reason that James mentioned, I'm also going to go for password credentials because I also have ad block. And more often than not, I do not see ads. But with that being said, I do work in an environment that we still do use blogs. Believe it or not, we get a lot of exposures from our items in our blogger group, which is pretty much someone that grabs our items, they set them all pretty in a scene, they do a blog about it, they say, we got this from Crescendo at this event, blah, blah, blah. And they do a nice scene, they post it to Flickr, and they send it over their social medias, but they do a base blog post. So we have like around 50-something bloggers in our team, and they all use the basic Word, the whatever format it's
WordPress?
used for bloggers. Yeah, exactly, and stuff like that. So they still use bloggers. WordPress. Yeah, so they still use we still use bloggers in our work environment. So ads would be very annoying if I did not have ad block. But I do have to agree with James because passwords, sometimes I honestly don't even know what password I'm typing, and I will not worry if it's a secondary website. I'll just type something and add a few numbers there and just send it. I log in, I do what I have to do, and then I log out. And then if I ever have to get back to that website, if it's not saved, I'll just recover my password. That's what I do. I know my email. My email has a super huge password that I don't know by heart. So I'll just have to I'll write something. If I ever need that again, I'm going to have to use the recovery system because I don't know what I typed for that password. So I would say the password credentials.
Interesting. Yeah,
All right,
I
Mr.
mean,
computer science.
here's the thing. A few people have brought it up, and I agree, but the problem is getting people to use. So there are really good password managers out there. If you own Mac devices, I know all you guys fucking hate on Macs, but they have the Mac keychain works across all your devices, saves all your passwords. You just remember one master password. It'll log you into all your shit. If you're not on Mac devices, there's a really cool service called LastPass.
I have that.
LastPass is awesome. Like, you just put everything on there, and you can just completely randomize all your passwords, and you don't have to memorize them. And it's actually more secure that way. So, like, there are solutions out there for the password issue. So it's not. I don't feel bad for people that are like, oh, I gotta remember a password, and I like fucking use the tools that are out there. I don't feel bad for you that you're ignorantly not using what. There's so many tools available to solve the password problem. That being said, as you mentioned, a software developer, there are other solutions out there that companies are not using. There are some companies that are taking advantage of them, and I wish that more companies would. So one of those solutions is third-party login tools to authenticate who someone is. A lot of sites now, you can just say log in through Google or log in through Facebook, and they'll use your credentials from other sites to verify who you are. Those work really well, but only if people adopt them.
Mm-hmm.
Also, one that a lot of companies don't use that my company actually has started using and experimenting with more and more, that's a really good idea. And some people say, oh, that's just a hassle, but it solves a lot of the problems because, let's face it. So let's say you want to reset a password. What do they use to reset your password?
Depends. Usually your email.
Exactly. In 95% of the cases, they use your email address, right? Well, guess what? All of those like geriatrics who forget their password every time they log in, they have to go to their email to reset their password like once a week, right? So so the argument that there's actually a solution out there now, it's called email logins. And basically what it is, every time you log in, it just sends a link to your email and you click on it, and that's how you log in. You don't have to memorize a name or password at all. As long as you know your email address, you can go to your email, click the link, and you're logged in. The reason that works is because the only way it can be compromised is if your entire email account is compromised, right? Well, if your email is compromised, you're fucked anyway, because then anyone can just go through and reset all your passwords to all your sites. So why not just take the middleman out of logging in with a name and password? Because half the time, these idiots are going to go log into their email and reset their passwords anyway. So why not just make them go to their email and click on a link every time? And then you don't have to worry about any of these issues, because if you have access to your logged in email, you're probably who you say you are, right? So, like some sites have actually started experimenting with just, you go to the site and you say log in, and it says a link has been sent to your email. You pull up your email, you click the link, you're logged in. And I wish that it was used more. I think email logins and third-party logins for sites, like, you're already signed up for Google, you're already signed up for Facebook, you already have 3 email accounts. Use those. Why make someone create a whole nother login account when you have so many tools available already? So yes, I think I have beef with that only because companies are not utilizing the tools that are available, but that's more on the companies. That's my beef with them for not being forward thinking and not like looking at the atmosphere, looking at the ecosystem and saying, hey, there's a better solution. So I do have beef with that. However, the whole political thing is the reason that my bigger beef might be with ads, because I often click a link, a political link, right? And it links to Washington Post, or it links to New York Times, or it links to one of these sites. And the second that comes up, it says, hey, you're using an ad blocker. Disable ad blocker or click here to rent our service for 1 month. Now, me as a technical person, I know how to do a right-click inspect, and I can actually just disable the overlay. Like, if you know what you're doing, you can just disable that pop-up in the code. Like, I can just go to the JavaScript and disable it. But most people, They get these nag. That's the new thing that bugs the shit out of me. It's not the blogs and it's not the ads. It's when I click on a Washington Post article and they're like, here, follow these steps to disable your ad blockers so you can read this 300-word fucking news article. That drives me insane. Like, more than anything, that might be my bigger beef is not just the blogs, but the whole ad block detection. Because now you're it's escalation, right? So like ads just got out of hand, so they invented ad blockers, and now ad blockers got so good at what they do that the websites have found ways to detect when you're blocking their ads. So now the ad blockers are blocking the detection of the ad. Like, it's so ridiculous that this whole escalation is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody wants shit for free. And that's really what it comes down to for me, is the fact that, like, if you want shit for free, you might have to deal with some ads.
Mm-hmm.
Like, shit's not free. Web hosting costs money. I build websites for people. And I know that it costs me at least $10 a month, or $5 or $10. Like, if you use DigitalOcean, you can host for like $5, $10 a month a website, depending if the traffic's low. But like, it costs money to put shit on the internet. And so ads are a necessary evil because everyone expects shit to be free these days. And I don't know what the solution is, because it's just getting to the point where it's like, you've got ads, you got a blocker for the ads, you got a blocker for the ad blocker, you got detection for the blocker of the ad blocker, and that's just a game that nobody's gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that's my bigger beef. I think my bigger beef is blogs and ads and ad blockers, and that whole ecosystem is just so broken. I feel like for me personally, that's probably my bigger beef. Only because I know there are better solutions for logins. We're just not using them yet. And I think over time that will change. The ad problem, I don't see a solution in the near future.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's like you said, it's an escalation. As more people used ad blocks, less ads were being seen. So now our revenues had fallen. So what do? We put more ads to hopefully compensate for the users that still see the ads. But then as the users that see ads keep going down, they have to put more ads, and then it keeps getting worse, because now people are like, the entire website is full of ads. I just want to read an article. So then they ad block.
Yeah, it's a snowball problem, and there's no real end in sight for that. Then that, for me, that's why it's the bigger beef than the login one. The login one's frustrating, but I feel like that there is a solution for the login one. We're just not quite, like, people haven't adopted those tools yet, but they exist. The ad one, I don't see a solution for it. It's going to be a constant battle. That's my beef. Like, I really, really, really hate going to a website and it's like, we noticed you're using an ad blocker. I immediately close the tab, even though I really wanted to read that article. Like, I just, like, it's not fucking worth it to me to jump through these hoops.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to me before as well.
Yeah.
So
and sometimes they're nice about it. They're like, we notice you have an ad blocker. We would like you to disable it, but if you don't, you can donate $1. And if you don't want to, you can just close this overlay and read it anyway.
Yeah, some sites are good about it. That's
like,
true.
I respect that. I'm not going to give you money because this is like the only article I'm ever going to read from your website, but I respect that.
So for me, it's blogs and ads.
All right.
I'm sticking to it. Did I sway you guys? Do you want to change your opinions?
Are
you sticking to logins?
Sheef is
yeah.
Could be anything.
It's true.
Just honestly, because I don't read that many articles that I have those pop-ups coming up to bother me.
True.
I do see them eventually. I do get them. Like Facebook, somebody's sharing a link or something. You click on it and then there's the overlay. But I don't tend to click on a lot of things. So usually it does not bother me that much. So I'm going to stick with the password and credentials and all that stuff.
Meshyf just admitted his fatal mistake. He said, I don't use ad block. I just let the ads wash over me. I don't feel bad for you at all.
Mhm.
All right, well, I'm at 6:09. You guys ready?
Same.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, well, on go. 1, 2, 3, go.
Well, did you get it? Are you right, Jimmy, James, Launcher, chat? How'd we do? Did we get it right? Let's find out. The biggest beef of the week is login credentials. Holy shit.
knew it.
It's 2018. We need to get a handle on this crap. And this is
Did we
where,
sway you?
and I know Jimmy's been waiting for this, this is where the goddamn blockchain comes in.
Oh,
okay?
blockchain. He's bringing up a
Centralized
blockchain
node,
point.
information that's copied, and there's a ledger, and everything's the same across the board, and I have access to this, and you fucking don't, and there's no way to alter that. This is where I get excited about the blockchain, because I fucking hate login credentials. There's got to be a better way. This doesn't work. And I know you can say, well, Meshyf, you could use LastPass. Well, what happens when LastPass goes out of business or LastPass?
Oh, he
is
brought up
hacked and all of a
LastPass.
sudden Everyone's
No!
got all your shit for every website. It's not a good answer. Okay? There's no good answer other than the blockchain has to fix this. And this is where I get excited about that. But in the meantime, login credentials, you are the beef of the week.
That's what I think of that. Boo. I think Meshyf designs them just so I'll get them wrong. I think it's me specifically that he's targeting. I feel singled out.
Yeah. That might be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, I get it, but I don't think LastPass is going out of business anytime soon. I don't know. But yeah, Meshyf, you didn't know about the email login though, did you? And third-party logins. Those are a thing, right? There are solutions. We just got to get on board with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I did notice a lot of websites, like if they're like, oh, if you don't have an account, register or just log in using Google. And I'm like, yes, click that one so fucking fast.
The first one is blogs, not ads. It doesn't matter because the whole time you were showing blogs, it was all ads, and that's what made me mad. So I changed your beef to what I wanted it to be. I created a straw man argument so I could argue against what I wanted.
What I take from that is that you wouldn't get it right, even if you said blogs.
It's
'cause it
true.
wasn't-
I just argue with myself most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit my own flaws. The email login is dope. It's a thing, dude. If I ever make my own website that has like a member login thing, it's going to have an email login just because fuck all that other shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when it would take you probably the same amount of time to log in
Exactly.
compared to using like old username and password.
Exactly. So, we are now at my favorite part of the podcast when we get to talk about all kinds of random shit. If anyone noticed, the name of this podcast was The Future's Weird, because there's a lot of weird shit that's happened in the last couple weeks that I've really wanted to talk about. Some of it happened last week, but we didn't have a podcast last week because Meshyf's time management is
Brings a tear.
terrible. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to blame Meshyf for all of it, even though all of us were busy last week. It's all Meshyf's fault. What is bug me not? Oh, I didn't realize that said bug me not until I read it. I'll check that out in a minute. I'm not familiar with bug me not. Anyway, did you guys hear about SpaceX?
Let's hope that goes right.
Dude. SpaceX is going to
Mhm.
send a human being on a private flight into space.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a name. There was he did a whole thing. He did a whole announcement. They're finally sending a person. Yeah, dude, did you see it? I posted the link there was a live stream and everything. Here, let's switch to my media view. This is the guy. This guy paid SpaceX. He's going to be the first person on a private commercial flight to space. His name is Yusaku Miyazawa. I'm sure I'm murdering the pronunciation on that. Gator Pete will probably correct me because he's a weeb and a half.
He's like, well, actually, Jimmy, the way you pronounce the Z.
Did the article list the price of the ticket? It wasn't an article. It was a live stream. I don't think they have disclosed how much it cost. But this guy,
it's not cheap.
This guy has his own company, and he has this whole project. He's calling it the Moon Project.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I chose to go to the moon with artists. I don't know what that means. So
okay, in case you don't know. So it's him. He's an artist, and he's taking other artists with him because he's hoping that this experience, going to the moon, will like help shape like new ideas for art that they want to bring back and like create and share. But then if the ship explodes now, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, before we started the podcast, we're like, wait, statistically, has anyone figured out, like, SpaceX has launched many rockets, and quite a few of those have exploded. I really hope that this podcast, we're joking about it now. I hope that I'm not right. But statistically, it'd be interesting to see the numbers on, like, percentage-wise, what are the chances of a SpaceX rocket exploding? I mean, they've gotten pretty good at it. Don't get me wrong. Their last few launches and landings have been very impressive and very consistent. But it changes things a little bit when you put human flesh in a tube and launch them into space. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So, I don't know. I have my concerns, to say the least. I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's definitely like, I do think though that for them to be taking this step, we cannot analyze like all the mishaps and all the rockets that exploded prior to a set date, because I think that's okay. This is working now. So, like, let's say a couple of years ago. So from now on, we need to do that statistic and how many have actually blown up or how many were actually a successful launch, et cetera, et cetera. So that's when we should like actually do the statistic. But it still might go wrong, like everything. Like something might go wrong. And if it actually does, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I wonder what that would mean for SpaceX as a program. Because up until now, it's one thing to blow up like some metal.
Yeah, like some automated ones.
But like when you blow up a person, that's got to have an effect on your stocks, right? Because they're privately.
Yeah.
Like, didn't they just go private? I mean, didn't he just like? Maybe that's why. Maybe. I mean, if you're public, that would probably be even worse.
That investor confidence falls.
Yeah. If you're private, I guess you could probably afford to kill a few people.
Pretty much.
It's very interesting that he does want to take these artists up there, because it's one thing to send, like Neil Armstrong to go up there and just be like astronaut and then come back and like talk about it. But for those people that like are used to like telling like a story or emotions through a different medium, it'd be interesting to see what they create. That's what true. I think.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm worried. Speaking of privately traded companies, Steam's just going for it, right? Did you guys hear the Steam news?
VR titties.
All the titties. Not just VR titties, just titties in general.
Yeah.
Steam's like, well, remember when we had when we had Battle Athlete on here, there was that whole controversy about Steam banning Honey Pop and all the shit that went down with that. And now it's like a complete 180. Now Steam's like, no, we're gonna release like full-blown adult uncensored games.
That makes sense for Steam though.
Does it?
Yeah. They need to grab that market. to do something to grab people. Like, of course, they're filled already with money. Okay, CS:GO skins and all that jabber, that all the game skins, because apparently that's in a lot of them. But that's a market that, if they filter it correctly in, people's profiles, etc., make sure the accounts are correct, which is never 100% accurate, but still, I think that's something they should pick up. They should grab it, because look at it. If you look at Activision being bought by Blizzard, right? They lost Call of Duty. That was a big thing for them, like a huge, huge title that they lost, because Blizzard just snapped their fingers. Oh, Activision, come here, I want you now, and deal was done. So I think they're doing it because they need to cater to the rest of it, like everything else that you have. If you're doing a game that does this or does that, or nudity or this or that, I'm gonna grab it. I think that's why they're doing it, because they're hungry for money. They want money, and that's a market that they want to explore. So
it's interesting. It's very interesting.
I mean,
because before this, the number one, hentai game site, Nuttaku, was the number one place to go. And I know this because, one, their ads would always pop up when I'm watching my illegal anime on some shady third-party website. And two, they paid PewDiePie for a Twitter ad, which was the funniest thing, because the Twitter ad was like full of like eggplants and licking emotes, and it was like, head to Nuttaku for the hottest hentai games. I was like, this is great. This is where the market's headed, because it clearly shows that there is a market for it, that people are interested in playing these types of games.
Did you guys see the list? 28 countries.
Not. Oh yeah, I looked over it.
This is 28 countries that I mean, not that they're probably the bigger markets, but I mean, I was surprised to see Japan on this list. But then again, they censor like dicks and vag in general. So having a completely uncensored game, even though half of them are probably Japanese in origin, that's kind of funny that they're one of the ones that would be restricting it.
Let's see. Let's head
China, I'm not surprised about. Like a lot of these, I'm not surprised. Egypt, Australia, Germany. I mean, they in the past they've restricted some things like swastikas and whatnot, but Japan's probably trying to protect its own market. That's a good point. But I don't know, like 28 countries right off the bat were like, nope, just either completely shut down Steam or shut down these specific titles that Steam is releasing. So,
but are these countries banning Steam like completely, or they're just not allowing these titles to be released on their countries?
Good point. Let's see.
Because if they're fully banning Steam, that's very
It looks like the
hardcore.
game itself. So far, the game has been restricted in 28 countries.
People are still going to play it, but officially.
True, yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy because it feels like such a 180 from the last conversation that we had. That's why
they were all like, no, we're banning this stuff. Like, we don't want this on our platform. Like, if offering a download for the nude patch on your website, no, not anymore. Get that off our platform. And then now they're like, hey, check out these great VR titties.
I mean, let's be realistic. VR titties are the future. I mean,
oh wait, did you see? I believe it was at PAX. Wait, was it PAX? I forget which one exactly. It might have been PAX, where they had like the VR system, and then there was a doll, and you basically have sex with the doll in VR. It was all over Twitter. It was great. The one that went wild, it was a dude cosplaying as Midoriya, and he's like going ham on this toy, and then the guy runs up behind him and yells, "Detroit Smash," because it's one of the moves he does in the anime.
That's
It was
terrible.
perfect.
Someone, I'm trying to find the comment. Where is it? I can't find it. But they were talking about how basically how the pornography industry has been kind of like on the forefront of technology. And it talked about how like basically the porn industry, so like back in the day when there was a competition between the first example was VHS versus Betamax. Betamax was actually a better media like they were both tape driven media sources, but VHS won because that's what the porn industry adopted. And the same thing happened with Blu-ray versus HD DVD. Some people say it was because Sony chose Blu-ray, but there was also a lot of pressure from the adult industry. Like there was the adult industry kind of adopted Blu-ray first. And so, I mean, if you look throughout history, like when it, like for another example is DVDs, right? DVDs, a lot of people, because very few DVDs have taken advantage of this feature, DVDs have multiple camera angles. Like there's a feature in DVDs where you can choose between 3 or 4 different camera angles. There's very few DVDs that actually use this feature, but guess who did? Porn. Like they have been early adopters of a lot of this technology, and so like they pointed out that like obviously VR and the Steam marketplace and all this stuff is just a matter of time before porn basically decided between the Vive or the what is it? I'm drawing a blank. Oculus. Like there will be a deciding factor, and it might be porn, because in many other industries that has been the deciding factor of which technology will thrive and move forward.
Yeah, I agree.
So it'll be interesting. Hey, Black Belt Beavis, how's it going? Welcome. Oh, I just got a message. All right. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Here's my thing. One more point I want to make about this. My only concern with Steam, I have no problem with them putting uncensored content on Steam. I just hope the other point that someone made that was a very valid point is that Steam has never been very good about content control. I think they should have a whole category that is an adult category that's password protected, and parents can decide if they want to like just lock that section of it off or whatever. Because the one of the concerns is that like, you know, your 12-year-old son or daughter is just like on your Steam account because they play games, or you know, even if you make them their own Steam account, like eventually kids are infamously good at finding their way into things that they shouldn't be, right? So they really need to be careful about how they restrict that content. Earlier today when I was reading this announcement, I was thinking it'd be funny if they created a whole separate platform called because Steam is already like the perfect name, right? So I was like, they should just create they should just create another platform like with a whole nother login and just call it Steamy, and they can just have all the adult content, all the VR dicks and boobs and like tentacles and moisture and whatever. Just put it all in one place and call it Steamy. And then all the fundamentalist assholes who are worried about corrupting their small ones, they don't have, then they can appease those people and be like, no, it's on this, it's on a different thing. It's a separate login. It's not we got Steam and we got Steamy.
I think that releasing this, they will have to they will be very smart about it. I think for you to activate the option
hope
to
so.
actually see this content, you will have to prove your identity/age. Steam Guard, your phone, whatever it is that you have to do already, they're gonna double that for sure. They cannot be stupid about it because they will get crushed if they do. So for you to even enable the option to see this content, to see the previews or whatever and whatnot, you will have to at least be able to prove your age and to prove that you want to actually watch that and see that and get that in your search. This is what I think. But they've made mistakes in the past, so I'm not going to put my hands on a fire for that. So
Exactly. That's the main concern, is will they approach the content restriction appropriately? So I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited. I mean, I've always wondered, like, adult games and content have been out there forever. And like everyone just like pretends that it doesn't exist. So it is good that they're like, no, like there's adults and they want to play games that have adult shit in them. And we talked about this too. That's why I made that clip of our conversation with Mr. Battle Athlete, is that in the United States specifically, there's always been a double standard for violence versus sexual content, right? In the United States, like, violence is just okay, like there's been hardcore, super intense, violent content in movies, in games, in media in general in the United States, and it's like, it's not that big of a deal. But the second you show a titty, it's just like, oh no, protect the children. So I don't know.
yeah.
I think it's an interesting conversation, because violence, especially against other people, is not a natural tendency, right? Like, usually, like, serial killers and violent people have had some type of trauma in their childhood that caused them to be that way. Whereas sex is
that's just innate.
Sex is evolution. I mean, that's how we create more people, right? Like,
Yep.
Why is it so taboo? And I think that's the bigger conversation that should be happening. And I don't know. This whole Steam thing, it's going to be really interesting to see what doors it opens and what conversations, hopefully, that game developers and media creators, because remember, Steam also serves up video content.
It does. You can buy movies off there.
So,
never done it.
Right now it's uncensored games, but tomorrow, is it going to be the next distributor of Debbie Does Dallas 37? I mean, is there going to be? So far it's unrestricted games, but there's a whole lot of adult content that we're not even talking about yet. So we'll see.
Oh, that actually reminds me. There was an article about how it was like millennials are killing Playboy. And it was like, well, yeah, why do I have to pay money for this softcore stuff when the hardcore stuff is free online?
Dude, fuck Hugh Hefner. That guy is a creep and a half. I don't care if that guy doesn't get another $1. Maybe he was revolutionary back in his day, but yeah, no. It's I don't know. Especially when you got tube sites where everyone, it's just like anyone can turn on a camera and take their clothes off. Like,
yeah. Why pay for it?
Anyway, moving on. Continuing with our theme of how the future is a weird, weird place. I don't know if you guys saw this, but which one? This one. I wanted to check this out. So did you guys see this? I posted this to the other members of the podcast, but I wanted to share this with you guys. This I don't know if it's a phone app or what it is. It's called 3dscannerapp.com. They were showcasing, this video is crazy. there's a lot of talk about how augmented reality is the future and blah, blah, blah. Well, these people have created this app that in real time can scan an object and make a 3D replica of it that you can manipulate. So I found this fascinating, and I specifically wanted to ask the Launcherq about it because as a 3D designer, I don't know, I kind of wanted to see your opinion on it. So I wanted to just kind of show a little bit of this video. But it's insane. Like, this is all happening in real time. Oh, let me back it up. Come on. You going to play for me, Daddy? There we go. Full screen this. There's supposed to be sound. Is there no sound? I guess there's no sound. Look at that. So the one on the right. Oh, here you go. Here's an example of it. It's scanning a chair. Boom. He sends a 3D image of a chair to someone, and then they just grab the 3D model and they throw it in a room to see what it looks like. Oh, loaf of bread? Cool. Let's copy it. It blew my mind watching this video. I mean, obviously, I don't know if this is actual footage and maybe doctored. I don't know, but it looks. I mean, they're showing it on a phone here. I'm just gonna copy this chair real quick. It's creepy. Here's a 3D copy of a person, and then this dog one. This dog just like giant dog in the background.
I was like, where's the copy of the dog, Jimmy?
You mean the giant dog sleeping in the background? Anyway, this technology like blew my mind. I thought it was super interesting. I don't know. What do you think, Launcher?
Wow, it's brilliant. It's honestly, if you think about it, that's already possible. Without this app, that's already possible, right? We can already 3D scan an item and make it an object in a 3D platform, whatever it is, and then copy paste it everywhere. If you apply this concept into a phone, you can literally copy paste it into place. It's not actually there, but you can actually see it on your phone. So it is brilliant, but there's a certain, depending on the item you're actually copy pasting, it needs someone behind it. Like that chair, for example, that you saw. If you paid attention on the bottom, the detail of that rendering, that filigree thing, it was just weird planes. It was like all conflicted and stuff like that. Probably that's because they didn't really render it properly. Might be a matter of just lowering the camera and just give it a little bit more time for the program to map out the dimensions. But that's if that application, if we apply it to video games, to platforms, there's going to be a lot of 3D artists that are going to be unemployed, because that's horribly fascinating that a program can calculate depth, ridges. It doesn't, you don't need to texture it because the item, it's already there. You know, the textures are already there, so you're just copying it, and then something else comes into play. Okay, then what are you allowed to copy? Where does copyright infringement and stuff like that
that's
comes
a good
into
point.
play?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
So
like if I
if
go
you're-
down on Wall Street and I copy the bull, it's like, is that illegal?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know,
We're gonna
I
have
don't know how
copyrights
long
on
the-
physical objects.
we actually gonna have to adapt. We actually gonna have to think about it, because so what if I'm scanning my mic and everything and the textures are there, I'm copying the logo, can I actually use it? Can I actually, or do I just erase the logo and the design is still there? So what is legal, what is illegal, and what can you actually do with this stuff? Like, does it have an application after all, rather than just, okay, so this is how this chair would look in this corner? Or instead of changing an entire sofa because your room is a bit busy, you just scan the sofa and put it somewhere else to see how it looks. Does it have a more decor application? Does it have a gaming application? Because I saw something similar, but with a tree. So I saw some studio just doing a 3D scan of a real tree, and then they imported that tree into a video game platform, and then they had to remap it, because regardless of what you scan, you still need optimization.
Sure.
Okay, you're always going to need optimization, especially for the gaming platform. To make that, you need a 3D artist. You need someone that can handle all those polygons and vertices and know how to map and knows how to retopologize. Basically, if the mesh is too dense, you need someone to to make a new mesh on top of it to make it less dense so that games don't crash. And then all the detail is applied via texture. So that's
Right.
getting a little bit more detailed. I don't need to go that deep into it, but just think about it that you could not have all the details and ridges and holes and bumps and everything that you have in a real item onto a game, because your platform would just crash even if it's the best computer with 2 graphic cards and stuff like that. So putting that out of the way, you still have an option to like just scan an item, bring it into an online platform or whatever it is, a game or a game engine, Unreal, whatever it is, and you have a full asset there that you just scanned in your real life. So that's kind of like fascinating and scary at the same time.
Yeah, I want to scan James and just I'm gonna be James on my stream. I'm gonna create a 3D model of James and map it to me so that I'm just like, "Hi guys, I'm James."
That's actually something that's come up before, because like what they've been doing in movies now, if an actor like dies and they need to use them, they use a 3D model. They get someone that looks similar and then they map the person's face to it. It's like, so going into the future, like, are celebrities gonna have copyrighted themselves? Like, you can't use my features in this because like already like in like some cartoons and such, like, oh, like any depictions of someone that may resemble someone in real life, like that's all like coincidence. Like they already have that. So now
Right.
going forward, like you could sell like your likeness to a movie company and they'll use you to make movies.
But that is already a thing. Like, I'm sorry, don't mind my puppy.
I saw your dog.
Yeah, that is already a thing. If you think about it, there was this case with The Last of Us where Ellen Page actually sued the Naughty Dog company because the character that they used, I think her name is Ellie or something like that.
Oh, from The Last of Us or whatever?
Yeah.
It looked so much like her or whatever?
Exactly, because she looked so alike. I don't know if she won or not, or if, whatever, but that is happening already. So, to meet with you, James, I think that's going to be an issue that clearly is going to have to have some solution to it, because it's already happening. So it will happen even more.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, eventually your own identity kind of becomes your intellectual property at that point.
Yeah.
Especially when deepfakes was going around.
Oh, the deepfakes were crazy.
You could take a bunch of images of like me, and you could find another like pasty white guy Mexican, and then put my face on him, and now you have me. It's like that's crazy. That like a couple years ago that seemed like impossible. But now using like AI, it can do all the hard work for you.
Calculating and mapping, and if you turn this way, it's going to use your face this way and that way. It's just insane. Future's weird.
The future is weird. That's the theme of the show tonight. Speaking of the future is weird, check this out. This is a quick one. This happened last week, but we didn't get to talk about it. This girl's insane. This is what happens when you give idiots smartphones. I want to full screen this. This happened last week. I think it was on Instagram or Twitter or something. But if you guys haven't seen this, check this out. I don't know if this has been debunked or not. I think it's real, but
it's too nonchalant to be fake.
She's just chilling, trying to act hard, and then she acts. I think. I love the comment.
Yeah. Like, look at the reaction.
She shot her phone.
The final frame. She clearly was like What? Because her eyes are closed, like she's not quite sure what just occurred.
She seems kind of out of it. She's probably high or fucking drunk or something. But yeah,
Oh, probably.
she shot the.
Is this America?
I don't
or-
know. I wish I knew more context. But anyway,
Young-looking person, firearm, probably America.
But yeah, okay, it was on Instagram. It was like on Instagram Live or whatever. This is the future, people. You give dumb
Oh,
people
yeah,
guns and phones, and they're gonna eventually shoot themselves or their phones in the process.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
There's actually quite a lot of cases of that where someone was like, "Oh, you want to say something, Launcherq?"
No, I was gonna say that I had this happening to me. Not to me. I didn't do it.
You shot your
But-
phone?
No. It wasn't me doing it. I was on a call with this guy. He was from I don't even remember.
Mhm.
So I used to live back when I was younger, like probably 18, and he was teaching me something in Photoshop back then. And so we used Messenger. And my father used to have, those. It's not a BB gun. It's kind of a BB gun. It's like a replica of a real gun. So
Mhm.
my father had a gun on the wall. So, I also have a gun, he said to me. So he went and brought his gun and he pointed to the camera, and all of a sudden I stopped seeing him, like completely. And then I just got a message from him saying, "Shit, dude, I just chopped my camera." It's like, what? What's happening? Is this real? And this actually happened to me. So that's why I find the situation super funny.
That's funny. So what? It wasn't a real gun, or was it like an airsoft
He
gun?
had a real gun.
Oh, it
he
was
had
a
a
real
real
gun.
Yeah, because he went to brought his real gun because he couldn't
And it
identify
was
the one that
loaded?
they-
Jesus.
Yeah, crazy. It was just a crazy situation. It was like I just stopped seeing him, and my first immediate thought was like, okay, no, he just shot his camera. But then I was like, nah, that's impossible. He wouldn't have done that. He actually did. So yeah, that was crazy.
Wow. He's just crazy, man.
That trigger discipline. Keep it off the trigger
Yeah,
unless you
right.
intend to shoot.
Yep.
Also, this was just announced. Did you guys hear about this? The PlayStation Classic.
Oh yeah, I heard of this.
I don't know. I don't know. I have my doubts. I feel like nostalgia-wise, the Nintendo has a lot more to go on than, other than like Final Fantasy VII and some nostalgic titles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They've only announced, they said it's going to come with 20 games, but they've only announced like 3 or 4 of them. So I'm worried that the rest of the games are just going to be garbage.
Yeah, it's like Final Fantasy, something else that's cool.
No,
and then-
here's the list that they've released of the 20 games. The only ones they've announced are Final Fantasy VII, Jumping Flash, Ridge Racer Type 4, Tekken 3, and Wild Arms. Like, where's Crash?
of
Where's
all those
Spyro? Where's Spyro and Crash? Yeah, but they haven't announced those yet, Red Marsh. Like, as far as I know, those are not official yet. It does have an HDMI port. But most PlayStation emulators are kind of like questionable anyway. So like I'm worried about the quality, especially because they're charging $100 for this bad boy.
I think there's a market for it, but it's very niche, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like you can play all those games on any current platform. I mean, I have Crash Bandicoot like on my Xbox, for example. I have a lot of the old classics on a Steam platform emulator. I have like you can pretty much play any game that you used to play on any emulator nowadays. And then the question is, okay, so who is buying this? It's probably collectors, probably old guys that actually lived through those games on their childhood and now are growing up, or probably they have a son and they want them to experience what gaming used to be back then. But that's such a niche audience that I honestly don't see a big market for it. I think it's just they're just doing something so that they have something to sell, I guess. I don't know.
They saw Nintendo do it and they're like, cool, we can make money. Let's just throw a little teeny like It's probably just like a Raspberry Pi with an emulator on it. Like, who the fuck,
Yeah.
you know, like.
And then it doesn't have quite the same like nostalgia pull as like the SNES did and the NES did, because they were just so much older.
Yeah.
So being able to go back and be like, oh, I can play these games from like
True.
30 years ago, like on my TV now. It's like you said, people that wanted to play like these PlayStation games probably did because they use
Yeah.
an emulator.
Or just bought them on Steam. Like, I bought Final Fantasy VII for like $4 on sale on Steam.
Sure.
You know, so it's a little bit harder of a sell, I think. Because you can't, like, to this day, you can't buy Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo on Steam. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these
There's a few
3D titles
Yeah.
are available on other platforms already. Either, like, really cheap or you know, emulators. I know emulators, there's questionable, you know, gray area as to the legality of them, but even on the PlayStation Arcade, like, you can buy a lot of these games. So I think it's going to be a little harder of a sale. I think a lot of people are just going to hack it like immediately. I think that part of the attraction of it is like day one, someone's going to hack this thing and figure out how to plug a SD card into it and install 400 PlayStation games. Like that's what's going to happen. And maybe even PlayStation knows that, and that's how they're selling them. I don't know.
And then there's another thing. Sorry, James, go ahead.
Oh, I was just to say, because when this type of thing comes out, same thing's going to happen like with the NES. A bunch of people are going to buy multiple copies and resell them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's you guys talked about the nostalgia factor. Today I was watching a streamer, and he was playing Metal Gear Solid, which was one of my most favorite games, like, of all times. I played that game so much, and then I played Metal Gear 2. I loved that title, and I loved everything about it.
Right.
And I built up this image of Metal Gear Solid, like, of this amazing strategy game. Like, I don't even think about the graphics in my head, because the game was just brilliant to me. It was fascinating.
The gameplay, the mechanics, the story, everything else. Yeah.
Right. So when the guy meets Meryl, one of the female protagonists of the gameplay, etc., like, he had a crush on her, and so did the players. Like, we immediately felt sympathy for her. We wanted them to have a relationship and everything like that. I was watching that part today, and I was watching the characters and the 3D build of it. What? What is that?
It's so
like,
terrible.
Square arms, like, the hands are like gloves, that the faces are square with a little peak for the nose. It's like, how could I, like, love this game so much? I still do. I still love because of the nostalgia factor, but it's just so weird to go back to it. It's almost like butchering a memory that you have of such a dear thing that you keep to you. So I don't know. It's
and it's I don't know why there's such a difference between but there is, and I don't know what the psychological reason is behind it, but for whatever reason 8-bit and 16-bit, like, pixel and flat, like, graphics, they age so much better. Like, you can still play Super Mario World, and it's still such a great game. Like, mechanically, graphically, everything about it just feels good, and it looks the same. Nothing's changed about it, but it's still, like, good games are good games regardless. Yes and no, Red Marsh, because, like he's saying, if you go back and you were to play, like, a lot of those 3D games, some of them have been enhanced and re-released. But 3D games do not age as well, even if they were good games. Like like the original, like, what was it, Cool Borders or whatever? Like some of the old snowboarding games for the PlayStation 1. In my head, I remember those games being amazing. But you go back and play them now, and the textures are just fucking terrible, and it's barely playable. Like, I feel that way about GoldenEye for the Super Nintendo. That game in my mind was so much fun, and I have so many hours of playing that game with my friends. It was like the first FPS multiplayer game that I really got super into. You go back and play that now, the controls are atrocious. And like the single player missions, some of them were so rage inducing. Like to play them now compared to like modern games and technology and stuff. I'm sorry, call me whatever, but like they just 3D games do not hold up as well in the long run. I like it's I don't know.
Like a good example. It's like Legend of Zelda. Which one was it? Wind Waker. Pretty old game. It still holds up today because while it was 3D, they focused on a more cartoony style that didn't really focus on like,
the whole
trying to
cell shaded
graphics
approach.
for that time. So it still holds up. And then I remember seeing when they announced the remaster for Spyro, I was like, Spyro, I loved that when I was younger. And then I saw like the original images of it, and I was like, that's what it looked like. Because in my head, I imagine like the cool like towers and being Spyro. And it's because back in the time when I was like a young child playing this, it's like the TVs that you played it on made it look differently, and then the memories associated with it. Because I remember like what I liked about playing Spyro the most was that I didn't have a memory card, so I would have to leave the PlayStation on all night to continue my progress. And then when I would wake up in the morning, I'd wake up with my dad who's getting ready to go to work at like 5 a.m. and I would play it with him. So it's like that kind of stuff with it too. So you take that away and try to like go back and play it, and you're like, this isn't like the same experience or fun that I had when I tried it the first time.
Totally.
So much has changed.
Totally.
Right. And that's kind of my point. Like I don't know, like early 3D games, I feel like there's very few of them that if you were to go back and actually, I'm not talking about like an emulated version or a remastered version. Obviously, those are going to be a different experience, but I'm talking about going back and playing the original version of a 3D game on the original console that it was like designed for, without any enhancements, without increased resolution. They were bad. Like graphically, they were bad, and even mechanically, a lot of times they were bad. Like the controls weren't that good. You just got used to them. As a kid, like you just adapt. Like even though they were shitty, like you figure them out, and you just like learn to deal with the limitations of the platform. Like another example, my friend, the game 1080. Do you guys remember the game 1080 for Nintendo 64? It was like one of the first big like revolutionary snowboarding games. You can look it up. That game was hard as fuck, dude. But I had a friend who played that game so much that he could consistently like pull off 1080s and 1260s or whatever. And like his fingers would be rubbed completely raw. Like his hands would be bleeding after playing 1080 for like just so he could get a top score or whatever. And like that's what video gaming was. And people were like, "Oh, I remember those good old days." They weren't good old days. He had to play that game for so many hours, and he probably has carpal tunnel now, and his hands were bloody every time he would play that game because the controllers were hard plastic, the graphics were terrible, and like but at the time that's all there was. And so we have these like glorified like rose-colored glass memories of these experiences, but then you go back and try it again and you're like, oh no, this is dog shit. Like why?
Yeah, I actually remember Jesse Cox like brought this up because he has an office that he shares with other YouTubers. They pull together and rent an office, and they got an arcade machine full of like older titles. And he was like, yeah, remember playing those? And you'd spend like hours upon hours like playing these. He's like, yeah, I remember. He was like, the other day I went and played one and I was done in like 30 minutes because the game wasn't even that long. It was just like so difficult, and you had to keep plugging in quarters that you didn't realize how like artificially extended it was.
Right. Yeah, what were the ones, the arcade ones that one example I remember is the Time Crisis games. I got an emulator. Do you guys remember? Have you ever play any of the Time Crisis games in arcades?
Mm-hmm.
They're
still around.
They're the shooter ones, but there was a pedal so that you could like hide and you could pop out and shoot. Like the pedal would like make you hide or pop out. And
Wow.
I got really good at those in the arcades, but I still spent a shit ton of money on them. And then like I got an emulator, like a MAME or whatever, you know, like just an arcade emulator, so that I could kind of play some of those again. And granted, I was using my mouse, so they're gonna be artificially like a little different. But like you said, I played through all the old Time Crisis games on an emulator, and I was like, dude, there's only like 5 or 6 levels, and they're not even that hard. But like, you know, on those arcade machines, they can adjust the difficulty and the time limits, and you know, it's all about just getting as much money out of you as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. I do think though there's a few exceptions to this rule.
Definitely.
The whole the 3D the 3D games don't age as well. I think there's a few exceptions, and one of them to me is Resident Evil 3, for example. But because they were smart about it when they did it, they did fixed cameras, so the scenario is not really 3D.
They can pre-render a lot of that stuff.
Exactly. So the only thing that it's 3D is your character going through the path that they designed originally.
Right.
And then they add the zombies to it. So that's 3D. But most fights, most scenarios are fixed cameras. And then you see a nice, kind of nice, you know, pixelated a bit, a few things. But those are not real assets.
Sure.
Those are just pictures of the backgrounds, and then there, of course, there's stuff in front of it. There's interactive stuff. There's doors that open and close, but they were smart when they did it because they used what they had to their, you know, as tools that they had at the time. And they did something that I think it's timeless because of that. Of course, it's timeless to people that nowadays revisit it, but back then it was quite scary. I remember playing Resident Evil 3 under my table with the blanket, but I was still hooked to it and I was still playing it. It's just like, so now if you picture that emotional guy that sometimes cries over movies, this guy is playing Resident Evil now. I mean, yeah, a lot of jump scares. So they were smart about it, the way they did it.
Sometimes I wish jump scares scared me more.
True.
I mean, I get scared, but I don't jump. Like I've never.
Yeah, it's not a real like scare. It's more like a shock. You're just like, oh, that came out of nowhere. But it's not like, oh, I'm really like dreading like the rest of this.
Sometimes my butt, she said.
I know. She's always like, ugh. Yeah, but there's on that trend, on the jump scares trend, there is no good horror movies for me. I don't remember the last really good horror / scary movie that I watched.
Oh, you know which one was pretty creepy? And it didn't really have any jump scares, but the whole subject matter was pretty creepy. Was Get Out.
I didn't watch that.
Ooh.
Oh, did I?
You should check that out.
Wait, did I?
If you haven't seen Get Out, I highly recommend it. So, you know Key and Peele?
Yeah.
So Jordan Peele, you know, they're both really talented dudes. They've both been actors and writers and stuff for a long time. Jordan Peele actually, I think he was the writer and producer of the movie Get Out. He won some awards for it actually, and it is
director and writer.
Yeah, it is a really, really good movie. Like it definitely put Jordan Peele on the map. Like he gained a lot of respect for that movie because it like the whole movie. You know how like some movies they like we can talk about M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong and how there's always like that one big twist where you're like, oh, okay, cool, I guess I kind of saw that coming, but whatever. Like
exactly.
Get Out, like there's so many twists in that movie that like you can't even like it's the whole movie. It's hard to explain because it's like, oh shit, what? Wait, what? Like it's just like it keeps you guessing the entire time. Like there's so many twists in that movie. It's really, really good. If you haven't seen
I'll
it,
watch it.
I
Yeah,
highly
I'll watch
recommend it.
definitely.
It's creepy as fuck. It's not like scary, like don't think like, you know, demons and jump scares and zombies and shit, but like just the subject matter that it deals with is very unsettling. Like it's kind of just really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Awesome. I'll check that one out for sure.
yeah,
Because I
highly.
love scary movies. So
The word you're thinking of, unsettling. Yes, exactly. It is very unsettling.
oh yeah, that's good. I like that.
Because for me, when it comes to scary movies, they really work when they do the don't show it, but show what's happening.
Right.
So you never see like what's hunting them or like what's happening. But every once in a while something moves, like a character goes missing, and it just keeps building up. Because I feel like in those movies where they do show it, kind of loses some of the appeal. Like
That's
in Alien,
yeah.
when they never show the alien, but then stuff is going wrong, people are dying, you're like, what the fuck's happening? And then you finally see it and you're like, oh wow, this just got way worse.
Me and that's funny that you say that, because me and Cabo were watching a movie the other night, and she said something that it's actually very accurate to me all the time. With this new, more recent scary movies and stuff like that, soon as they show what's hunting them or what's causing the hassle or causing all the problems, soon as they show it, it stops being scary to me. And she was the one.
Hello?
More if creepy face.
Lost you for a sec.
No, yeah, you're good now.
Anyway, she was the one. Keep going.
Yeah. So she was the one mentioning that soon as we see something that it's what's hunting them or what's scaring them, the movie just loses interest. Like you just like, okay, so there's this thing. There's this weird, creepy thing that it's hunting them or doing this or doing that. So that's to do with what Jim was saying. Like it ruins the movie when they initially just show what's going on, show what's hunting or
Yeah, like I guess an example of that would be like Stranger Things. Did you watch Stranger Things on Netflix?
I love that show.
Because there's always that slight like mystery. Even though it does show the monster towards the end of the first season, there's still always that like, what the fuck? Like, where is this coming from? Why is this like there's always that intrigue of.
Not only that, but it's so brilliantly done because first of all, it's not a scary show. It's not claiming to be a horror / scary / it is unsettling. It is intriguing / adventure because you have these kids that bring you in the adventure with them, and you see what's going on with one of them and where he is and the upside down world. That to me is a fascinating concept. Like I love things like that, time travel, etc., etc. I love everything that has to do with that. So when they reveal the entire concept of the show, I'm just immediately hooked on it. And then, like you said, Jimmy, they don't reveal too much. They keep it very subtle. They extend it and prolong it because they have to sell it as well. But they do it so brilliantly that it keeps you hooked, and it makes you want to watch more. So I absolutely love that show, man.
If you like that, have you seen Super 8?
I have not. No.
That's another good one.
I will write it down.
it's a Steven Spielberg movie, and it's about these kids that accidentally film some shit, and then they start like catching on to this whole like all this crazy stuff starts happening, and it's same thing. Like it doesn't reveal. I think it's not till close to the very end when it like reveals what it is or what the fuck's going on. It's modern day Goonies. Bishop Girl, I would agree with you, but it's more like Goonies mixed with E.T. because there's like there's that Spielberg kind of like supernatural like kind of mystery, like kids versus the man kind of, I don't know. It definitely hits that like 80s kid adventure nostalgia, but
Awesome.
but it keeps you guessing for sure.
I'll definitely look at it.
Mhm. It's also pretty nice because usually a lot of directors, they don't like working with kids because it can be very hit or miss on the quality you get.
That's true.
True.
Stranger
Yeah.
Things, they got real lucky because all those kids were talented as fuck.
Mhm.
Gosh, so good, man.
You know
So
what?
good.
That might be another perfect segue.
Let's do it.
Speaking of Stranger Things, there's a character on Stranger Things. She kind of shows up out of nowhere. She's one of the main characters.
Mm.
When we meet her, she's got a shaved head. And let's just say that someone has taken a liking to her. And it's a little bit concerning.
Oh.
Oh, the alternate title Meshyf suggested.
Check this out. I'm not going to play the whole video because I'll probably get a copyright strike. But look at this guy. Look, who's that? Is that Drake? And look, who's that? That's our
Milla Bobby Brown.
yeah.
I don't remember.
I just
the name.
love her name. It
What-
rolls off the tongue so well, even though it's
So let's take a little look here at this little video here.
I met Drake in an Australian hotel.
What about your relationship with
Kinda
Drake?
I love him. I met him in Australia and he's honestly so fantastic. Are you joking me? Drake? He wants to see me? And I was like, okay, we're going. So I got my outfit prepared, I went there and he was such a fanboy and I was such a fangirl that and honestly we text all the time now. He helps me with everything, like just life lessons. We just texted each other the other day and he was like, I miss you so much. I was like, I miss you more. We went to dinner afterwards and we had dinner the next day and then we met in Sydney.
What advice does he give you? Like, what does he say?
You know, that stays in the text messages.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I lied. We watched the whole video. Something R. Kelly what? The only part that okay, sure. Someone pointed out in the comments, she's 14. I think she's 15. But someone pointed out in the comments that Drake used to be a child actor, so maybe he's just trying to impart his advice or whatever. But the fact that he was texting her and I miss you, and the fact that Drake's girlfriend is barely 18, I
kind of gives off some strange vibes.
yeah. So I saw this video today and I was like, uh-oh. Drake better
That
be
is
careful
not
who
bad.
he's texting. Anyway, we don't have to dwell on it. I just thought it was really
Yeah.
funny.
It's like,
It was
yeah,
a
we can
good
let the
segment.
tabloids do it for us.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to see how that unfolds. So you heard it on Reddit and you heard it here first. We're gonna see what happens to Drake in the next few months after that video dropped. I'm curious to see if people latch on to it or not. Maybe everyone will just maybe it's not that big of a deal, but it could be something.
Yeah, there's probably nothing malicious about it, but it's just the way that they frame that video too. It sets
Sure.
you up for there's some shady shit going on.
Yeah.
Because everyone always wants to jump towards that because it's interesting.
I don't know. If I were her parent, I guess you kind of have to look at it from that point of view, right? If you're a parent of a girl, regardless of whether or not she's famous in Hollywood or whatever, and all of a sudden some 30-year-old, how old is he? I don't even know how old he is. He's definitely
Probably around that.
he's definitely in his 30s, right? And he starts
31.
He invited her to dinner. She got all fancied up to have dinner with him, and then she's texting him life advice and texting her that I miss you and I don't know. As a parent, I'd be like, I'm not okay with this. So he's 31. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
So interesting. You don't know the context of him texting her, "I miss you." She might have texted him that first, and then he said it back. That's not the same thing. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah,
That's how
obviously,
they framed it in the video.
obviously, we don't know the context, but why not have fun with it?
Yeah, because we know the guy that made that video. He's farming that karma.
Yeah,
True.
I mean, we don't know. We don't, but it's still interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I can say, as a 30-plus-year-old dude, I would never have those conversations with a 14-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Not even if it was innocent.
Yeah.
Especially with everything that's going on in Hollywood right now, like, it's probably safe not to have those conversations.
Yeah, it's like
with the whole Me Too movement and just like everything that's happened in the last few years. I would probably steer clear of texting 14-year-old girls about how much you miss them. Just
like, even as a 19-year-old, still find it like it still seems weird to me to like talk to people that are under 18 because of that. Because I know there's some people in a Discord server I go to that are, and whenever like they'd pop into the voice chat, I'm like, this is weird. FBI, are you listening?
Yeah.
Nothing bad is happening, I swear. But then it's like that thought like lingering behind you. Like if a third party sees this, like what is their first thought going on here?
And will they understand the context, etc., etc.?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's the bigger concern is like from her point of view. Like she's probably so starstruck by the fact that like one of the biggest recording artists of the last 5 years is like hitting her up. She probably doesn't completely even understand the greater context of what's happening, you know? She's just like, oh my God, Drake wants to hang out with me. And it's just like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, guys. People don't care about context. Yeah,
Exactly.
not as much as they should. So how many dogs do you have, Launcher? That one's popped up a couple times now.
Yeah, he everything he hears outside, he wants to go outside. So I constantly go open the door to him and stuff like that. And so today, like, he heard something as he comes here, and then he nags me for my attention, and then he goes away, and then he comes back. So he's a little bit anxious today. But I have 3 dogs inside my house. That I kind of rescued, and then I have a kitty, and then I have 6 other dogs outside. They are all
6
free. Yeah, they're all free in the yard because I live in a farm kind of.
Oh, okay, that makes
big
more
property.
sense. I was like, dude, I got fucking 6 dogs.
Yeah, so I have a big property that it's fenced and everything. I have all the conditions for them. So yeah, I have 6 outside and 3 inside. And my cat that I stole from France. I didn't steal it. He was from I fell in love with a cat. Okay, I was a dog person. That cat used to sleep while I learned Blender. Curiously, he would like fall asleep between my keyboard and my monitor, and he would just stay there for hours. I have some time lapses on YouTube with the camera pointing at him, with him sleeping. So yeah, I have quite a lot of animals, and now they're playing inside the bed, on top of the bed. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'll shush them if they're too noisy.
No worries, man. But that Bishop girl did request that you post pictures. So in my Discord, I have an IRL channel where people post real life stiffs. So if you,
I'll make sure I'll show some photos of them.
If you feel so inclined, you can drop some pictures in there.
Will do, for sure.
Man, I have had a wonderful conversation with you, Launcher. I feel like we've all learned so much about you tonight.
It was a pleasure.
We need to have a virtual jam session sometime because little known secret, I am a drummer.
There we go.
So
I can play the guitar. You can
you
play the drums.
send me like a
I got the
a
electric
guitar
piano.
recording, and I'll lay a drum track over it or something. We have to
There
do
we go.
some collaboration. Oh, I play ukulele too, but I'm kind of bad at the. I'm a better drummer than I am a ukulele player.
Yeah, so I play the guitar, you play the drums, and James can sing, like Cabo is suggesting.
James can just
What?
dance around a pole like a sexy motherfucker.
I'm just the eye candy for the group.
And he can just every once in a while just come to the mic and say, "Yeah," in that James voice. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. It's been a wonderful podcast. I think it's been about 3 hours. That flew by, dude. Holy shit. That was some excellent conversation. Launcherq, thank you so much for being here. Make sure everybody go follow him on Twitch, twitch.tv/Launcherq. He's also got a Twitter. I'm sure if you are a Second Life individual who's interested in having some work done, or 3D work in general, he'll probably hike up the price if it's a commission because he's a busy man. But but thank you so much for being here. Next time we're gonna convince Cabotage to get on here one of these days. It's gonna happen.
Here's hoping.
But thank you, Cabotage, for providing us with all of the juicy tidbits. We learned. I think this has probably been the most in-depth guest podcast we've had, just because I had a third party to provide those extra details.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome. I need to reach out from now on. My new goal with guests is to like meet their cousin or sister or girlfriend or wife. Just find all the juicy bits.
So are you the mother of this person? I'm asking for a background check. Do you have any like personal information you could verify for me?
Cabotage said, "I'm gonna pay for that later."
Oh yeah.
I want to ask questions about that, but I'm not gonna go there. You guys go ahead and work that out.
You do you.
It sounds like Launcherq might enjoy that punishment more than he wants to admit, though. So just saying.
I just have a reason now. So usually I don't.
True. Let's see. Tomorrow I will be streaming. Next Wednesday, we will be back. With or without a guest, we will be back with another podcast. Don't forget, Jumbotron Jamez is now a thing. We premiered it tonight. It was the first time ever. Also, this week, probably over the weekend, I know I keep saying it's going to happen. Probably within the next week. I'm hoping this weekend, if I have time, I am going to get the podcast hosting set up. So the RSS feed, the iTunes, the Google Play, the actual podcast part of the podcast is going to happen very soon. Right now it's on YouTube and Twitch, but soon, very soon. And this episode will probably be available by tomorrow or Friday on YouTube. And I also have a couple other videos that I've posted from previous podcasts, some highlights and stuff. So Launcherq, the mic is yours. If there's anything you want to plug or anything you want to say before we part ways.
Just honestly, thank you so much for the invite. It's a pleasure, as always, to explain more of what I do. And if you guys have any questions about anything 3D related, feel free to drop by my stream. There's also a Discord channel link there if you have any 3D questions related. Anything at all that I could possibly help you with. Me and Cabo, we are always open to help whoever is starting or wanting to make a start, because we know how hard it is to make that jump, to make that decision. So if you guys need any help or any tips, or if you just want to hang out and say hi, yeah, just my stream would be the place to go. And there's a link on the bottom then that you can get in our Discord, etc., etc., and you can make all the questions. If you have art or anything like that, you can also showcase it there. I want to thank you, Jimmy, for the invite, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
it's awesome.
And James for the amazing, right arm. It's just, you guys are brilliant. I appreciate a lot of what you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. James, any parting words, sir?
Dead by Daylight is free for a week, so if you want to download it, we might be doing a Thirsty Thursday, Kill Your Friends edition.
Dude, I didn't know that. Yeah, I'll probably download it tonight. Thank you for letting me know. Dead by Daylight. Thirsty Thursday stream is going to happen. Let's do it. I was going to say one more thing, and now the Dead by Daylight thing totally made me lose my train of thought.
Normally, games don't scare me, but trying to repair some generators when some masked woman is singing in the woods, it gets to you. You don't know where the humming's coming from. Your heart starts beating. The QTE pops up. Oh, you missed it. Generator blew up. Now she knows you're there. It's so tense. It's so fun.
Sounds scurry. All right. We're going to take a quick look here and see who's online, and we'll go raid or host someone. Thank you guys once again for another successful podcast. And stay tuned in the Discord. I will be updating you there once stuff goes live. And love you guys. Have a good night.